So this evening, I have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Jeff Selver. For those of you who are part of the Star Season Light Workers Collective, you probably remember him back in the fall. He came and he spoke about his book, The Rising. And he shared with us a very, very interesting experiences that he had growing up and being a contactee and having a lot of different having a lot of different experiences with the Greys, and some of those experiences dealing with his life, and some of the experiences he had as a child growing up, and also some of the experiences that he had with being a contactee. So he really shared a lot of interesting information with us, and we're really looking forward to exploring that, because some of the experiences that he had were not only in terms of the abduction, but also in terms of the but also because he had experiences that led him to understand how we use thought. And the Greys told him how thought changed everything, and how he could use that to create the life that he's on right now, and he's going to share those secrets with us on how we can create our own life as well. So I'm really looking forward to Jeff, and we're having a little bit of technical difficulties right now, guys, so just bear with me. But we're going to be getting Jeff on the line right now. So can we do audio though? So Jeff, hi.
Hey there. Hey,
How are you
Crystal.
doing?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for the intro. That's great.
Yeah. So we're just sort of trying to figure out some of the technical difficulties now, but maybe you can speak with us and tell us a little bit more about the book. So first, because I know that some people are just joining us now, we have actually quite a few new members that have joined the Starseeds and Lightworkers
Great.
Collective. So just give us a little bit of background about who you are and about the book, and
Sure.
just sort of bring some people up to speed.
Yeah. So I can be heard. I can be heard by them.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah, you can be heard. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, so my name is Jeff Selver, and I'm the author of The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened on Earth, which relays my 26 contact events with gray aliens. It sounds wild. I agreed to be part of an experiment on their behalf to help me discover my soul. And then they would, learn about humans in the process. And what is the soul but the higher self? And part of it was me forming a relationship with my higher self. They did that in various ways. That's all related in my book. But the most important part for today's presentation is once that was initiated, that plan that happened behind my life, and all I knew was that I had a profound, kind of attainment experience. By the way, this occurred in 1997,
Okay.
and that's when my story all unfolds. But what happened was a relationship with the universe unfolded. Once it was initiated out, and I had this profound, higher self experience, it was coupled with visioning and the ability to manipulate our reality and our circumstances and the actual ability to vision. And that was the beginning of it all for me, 1997, when I was 20 years old. And it would launch my experience visioning. And I had some pretty powerful successes while it started. And then I would always be able to retain that as my memory of my successes. And then once the alien contact kind of ended, again without my knowing, because I didn't have the memories of it at the time, my memories of the contact are being obscured. But the abilities, or the kind of the experience of visioning remained, and I ended up continuing to experience visioning and learn about it, learn about how to actually be good at it. And at times I was unsuccessful, so I learned what were the problems that could create unsuccessful visioning. And so that's what today's presentation is largely about, is this wild story that had a side avenue of visioning and the ability to vision. And so I get to relay all that today to your group, so I'm excited to do that.
Okay, great. Well, I just was told that we can see you now, so
Oh,
that's great.
great.
So people can see
Okay.
you. So,
Hi, everybody. Yeah, good.
hi. So, did you want to share? I don't know if you have a copy of the picture of your book, or you
Yeah,
want
I
to
have
just
the
hold up
book
your
here. Yeah.
book. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to just there you
So it's
go.
The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So let's get started.
Great. Okay, so I will share my screen here.
Okay.
Sorry, they changed things up here on. Oh, here we go. They changed things up. Sorry, I apologize.
No worries. I think
No
tonight
worries.
is a night of tech difficulties, so no worries.
Okay, so can it all be,
Can you make it full screen?
of course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go.
So the audience can see my screen is good? Okay, fantastic. Oh, okay. Cool. And I'm going to record, so I apologize.
No worries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's times
There
like
we
these
go.
when I had like, you know what? I'm going to develop stand up.
Recording in
Oh,
progress.
there you go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah.
The next time I'm going to develop a stand up comedy routine, in this way we can sort of pass that time.
Yeah, right. Get the jokes going. Yeah, well, it lightens everyone's mood. It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so thank you, Crystal, for having me back again. I enjoy doing presentations for your group, and I know Carol actually did a was a co-presentation with Sufan as well too. So it was great to see that as well too. So it's great to see everybody. So thank you for having me back. Today's presentation is the power of visioning and manifestation. So my name is Jeff Selver, and and I am the author of The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth, where I relay my story of 26 contact events with gray aliens. It is available at my website, www.jeffselver.com. So visioning was a prominent theme in my story with the aliens, as were concepts related to the ability, such as different perspectives of time, the nature of consciousness, the holographic universe, and the simulation theory. So I'll be drawing from stories from my book today, and then we'll go into a breakdown on how to vision from my 27 plus years of experience. So one of the things that happened to me from the aliens was that I received a download, and it was of an alien book. I'm certain now that it comes from the entity I call the leader, and which would be synonymous with the species we identify as the mantis. And I'm going to read a couple passages from that book because it actually describes visioning.
Sorry, Jeff, just
there.
before you continue, we just have to fix something technical. If you could hold
Sure.
on just 1 second. Sorry
No
about
problem.
that. I'm so sorry,
No problem.
everybody. Yep. Okay. So we good? Okay, so we can continue. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, no problem. So one of the things that happened to me was that I received a download of an alien book from the entities during my contact events. I'm now certain it comes from the entity I call the leader, like he was the kind of composer of it, if you will, who is synonymous with the species we call the mantis, or the mantis species. So I'm going to read out a couple passages because they relate to visioning. So matter and consciousness. The universe is an interconnected field. Each particle is connected to other particles in the universe. Individual consciousness connects with all particles and points in space and time. This is hard to believe when you perceive your existence as coming from your body and your mind, but it is real. Awareness is connected to every feature of the universe. And there was a section specifically addressed to visioning called the holographic principle. In the beginning, there was peace and calm when the universe flashed forward. This flashing forward was a peaceful process. First, an ethereal version flashed forward, then the universe created an exact copy of itself, the harder, denser version of what you see today. As the universe poured forth, it formed into programmed codes. The ethereal created code in which the matter fell into. What you see around you is a hologram. Why is it a hologram? Because the ethereal code underneath controls the whole visible universe, and you are connected to that. In essence, what you see around you is an illusion. Matter is put into place by a function of the ethereal code, making the visible universe. The code is embedded all around you. It is the clothes you wear and the car you drive. It is the weather, nature, and the elements. It is the planets, gravity, the stars, the galaxy, the entire visible universe itself. In their simplest terms, programming codes are what you would describe as visions, with which you desire to manifest, using what you have termed as the power of attraction. Yet it is less about attraction and more about creating, hence creating a program. The programmable codes of the universe, of the visible universe, which is the great hologram, are the visions of God. You can embed your own codes by using your heart, i.e. God will, being, feeling. The programmed codes for everything in nature are inside you. The heart has the programs of the universe, all visions of the universe within it. And they continue. Visioning is being, what you desire, picturing detail with your mind, and using your willpower, demanding as the God you are. Such will make the holograms bend. When we vision, the hologram follows suit and builds new codes in line with modifications of the hologram. Willpower is yours, yet simultaneously God's. Meaning each and every desire is in line with the universe, allowing the hologram to bend as such. You can create peace and joy. All needs can be met this way. Play with the hologram. It is meant to be an experience of joy in life. This joy will unlock an upward spiraling evolution of consciousness. So, during my 4th and 5th contact events, I was in the middle of this experiment with gray aliens to discover my soul, and I kept going up into crafts. This was back in 1997. These 2 contact events, and they would show me at the end of whatever they had done some work on my body and my mind and these different contact events. But in both the 4th and 5th, as the contact event ends, I see it could be said the future, or maybe it was the present moment, but just a little bit, a couple days next. So they were showing me, reality based on these globes. And this was the globe, generally the picture of what I saw. And what I witnessed was the hologram was a globe composed of white and blue plastic or plasticine looking wisps. Traveling in the middle was a pure white line, straw, or tube that became dense with, colors basically as it passed through the center of the globe. I could feel this was a part of me, like I was a part of my higher self. This globe was attached to me. Now, what I understand is that higher self was the tube. So I'm looking from a bird's eye view of my life. And this was some kind of holographic representation of my existence at the time. So now presently, as I'm going through all my contact events, I'm now sitting with everything. I've been talking publicly about all these experiences without fully understanding some things. And only recently have I been able to, communicate with the elder still. Presently, I still have telepathy with them. And I was curious about this, about these holograms. What are these wisps I'm looking at? I understood because I could feel that I was the higher self was the tube. So I'm looking at a bird's eye of my life on Earth from these holograms. But there were these wisps in between it, and I didn't understand this stuff. And the elder said, "That's the code." I'm like, I don't understand. She's like, the code of reality, the reality code. And again, so when I got that mystic book out and had this whole stuff about holograms and there being a ethereal code behind the existence, I didn't actually believe that at the time. My whole belief system was that there is an ethereal energy, kind of a God thing that's permeating through reality, and kind of more like just an energy. And I never thought, I didn't have the thought that there was a code, an ethereal code in the background. And so when that came out in the mystic book, I didn't really know what to make of it. And same here, I got this information of the elder telling me that there's some kind of code in the background of existence. Only recently would I learn that deep research. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to that. I haven't gone all the way into it, but I do know some credible psychologists who actually consider it valid research. And in that DMT research, people are, when they're into this DMT realm, they're quote unquote seeing the code of the universe behind all existence. So there's kind of this, pattern coming up that there might just be some type of code sitting in the background and of reality, and we're able to interact with that code. So it's kind of an interesting feature to my contact events that I didn't really know about too much until only recently. The other thing throughout my contact events was it was time. Time was a big part of my experience with the entities. A large premise of my story with the non-human intelligence involves time. My entire story with the aliens is their ability to see the future events of my life, and they used a holographic timeline in my contact event when I'm 16, which is what this is. They knew specific events when they would occur, time, and they appeared to have it all pre-planned out. The timeline goes up to about my 23rd contact event, so that's the kind of the end of the actual timeline, which would occur in about 2001. And then after that, I'm with the elder in the 23rd contact event, and I'm actually inquiring when I'm going to become aware of my contact events. And she shows me this. So it was on a computer, and it was these kind of branched out timelines. And she says, this is your timeline of possible events, the outline of what could occur till you learn about us. We didn't know what was going to happen. We have trajectories, outlines, and maps, but you make the ultimate choices. And that's a very fascinating piece of information about time, their perspective of it, and how we move through it, just nearly almost. And in reality, we might be following a plan, or we might be changing and altering our timelines at the same time. So it's all very fascinating. And what this demonstrates is that some parts of our life can be planned out, and some might have varying probabilities. So time is seen differently by the aliens, and the only way that something like this could be possible is if time is an illusion, and therefore relative to the observer. The aliens just might be observing our time from their future, and that's for something else. But the bottom line is that they clearly have an alternate version of reality here that involves time. And I'll be going into this in a second here. So aside from this visioning was a part of my experience in the real world while my contact events were occurring without my knowing. And my ability to save myself from desperate situations through synchronistic events was being observed by the entities, and they commented as such in my 16th contact event. So I highlight in my book the very first time I consciously used visioning to my success back in 1998. And that's what this story is here. So roughly 6 weeks after I left my old life, I eventually made my way north to Nanaimo. So I was traveling, living out of my car, having contact events without my knowing. Between food, books, and other unexpected expenses, I was now running low on money. I needed visioning to work because I was unclear what to do otherwise. But I knew I wasn't put in my scenario to starve. The first thing I had to do was internalize that my thoughts are correct, that they are our God power, and that I had to take responsibility for them, being conscious of what I was imagining, and not to produce thoughts of a negative outcome. By changing how I thought about my thoughts, I allowed the universe to receive them, knowing my individual awareness was part of the God awareness, that my desire from my heart, from my core consciousness, was God's desire. I visioned myself having money. I saw how I would be acting, what I would be thinking, and what I'd be saying if I had money. I then realized I actually wouldn't be about money at all. If I was living in a state of it fulfilled, I wouldn't actually be pondering about money at all. I'd feel comfortable, relaxed, and carefree. So I took that mind frame and feeling and lived in it, feeling the money was with me now. The vision put me in a place where I could intuitively feel I had nothing to worry about, that I was taken care of by the universe. So I did nothing, continuing to travel and explore what I felt compelled to, staying in the parks and beaches in Nanaimo, but held on to my vision. A day or two after I laid out my vision, sitting in my car reading, a flash of awareness from my heart overcame me, telling me to call my mom. It was out of place because I was convinced I needed to be separate from my parents. When I left, I never explained what was happening to me, only telling them that I was on a spiritual mission and needed to travel. At the payphone, calling my mother, she admitted to me that they were very scared not knowing where I was, but she was happy to learn that everything was okay, even though she couldn't understand why I was living out of my car. She then casually mentioned I had a $2,000 tax return going back to me. I couldn't believe it. I saw it right away in response to my vision. At the rate I was spending money, this would set me up for months. Visioning worked, living in the feeling that I had money, relaxing that it was all taken care of, having an intuition to call my mom, and the amount of money was way more than I could have imagined receiving. The way it all rolled out made it seem unlikely to be chance. I felt connected to the universe when this occurred.
So Jeff,
like it was working with me. Yes.
Jeff, just give us a minute here because it seems that there's a bit of a crackling sound on your side, and I think that we just want to try and figure that out. Do you
Sure,
need?
it's not the rain.
Yeah, so I'm just going to ask a quick question just to sort of explain to people
Sure.
that, because I think if we can fix it, I just need to sort of extend a bit of time here. But if I understand correctly, so just to tell people, Nanaimo is in BC. So for some of us who are from outside,
Yes.
he's living in Vancouver,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so
And so at
it's
that point, I'd left my home.
yeah.
I moved, I went to Vancouver Island and I
Mm-hmm.
was living out of my car. And yeah, Nanaimo was one of the random communities I was just traveling up and this event all unfolded in Nanaimo. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, just 1 second, please.
No problem.
Okay, so we're going to stop the link, I guess. So what you're trying to tell me? The okay, so so I can continue talking for 1 minute then. So we're going to start. Just 1 second, please. We're going to just pause the stream for 1 minute to make a quick correction, and then we'll come back. So just please hang on, everyone. I'm so sorry for all these technical difficulties. We actually came to YouTube to try and avoid this, and now here we are having this issue. So just give. It was working last week. I don't know what happened. Let me know. Oh. No. Hi. So, so basically, we're going to try our best to create a better stream, guys. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we're going to try and fix that for you. So we're going to need about 5 minutes, and then after that, we are going to be coming back and having a new stream. So I'm so sorry, but just stick with us. We'll be right back, okay? Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Andy, the camera's blurry. He said the camera's blurry.
Continue talking.
Yeah. Okay, but he says that the camera's blurry. Okay. All right. So, Jeff, I'm really sorry about everything.
No problem.
You know, it's just one of those things. But I think everything is okay on your side, I think, because I don't hear any crackling on your side.
Okay. Oh, this is through you guys.
I
From
don't,
you
I'm
to
not,
to the streaming.
yeah, so
Interesting. Okay.
not really sure what's happening here, but we're still trying to work on it. And so I think we're going to need about another minute or so while
Okay.
our technical team is working on that. And so in the meantime, we can just, maybe you can just tell people a little bit more about the book. And then while we're waiting for that to happen, maybe talk a bit more.
They're not there. Are they? They're not there right now, right? They're gone now. The stream. You're not streaming with them, right?
Are we streaming? Yeah, we're still streaming. I didn't know
Oh,
that.
they're all there.
I did not know. Oh my God. I think the technical team is trying to figure out what to do, but basically, we'll see how this goes, and if not, we'll ask people to sort of just click on the new link that we have. So,
Okay.
so I just want to know if people can tell me if the sound is better, because if the sound is better, then we can just continue with what we have now. So, I don't know, Chris, you want to tell me if the sound is better? And it's that it's not crackling, hopefully. I know that the focus is better. I think we had a bit of the visuals were a bit blurry, but I think it, and there's no crackling, so it's good. Okay, so let's continue. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Okay.
So back to life, back to reality.
Recording in progress.
All right. So sound is fine. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sticking with us, and I apologize profusely for more problems. I don't know why that's happening, but anyway. So Jeff, I'll let you take the helm.
Sure, sounds great.
Okay, so we'll go back to his presentation then.
Great. So I'll just continue where I left off.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
problem. Visioning worked. Living in the feeling that I had money, relaxing that it was all taken care of, having an intuition to call my mom, and the amount of money was way more than I could have imagined receiving. The way it all rolled out made it seem unlikely to have been chance. I felt connected to the universe when this occurred, like it was working with me, aware of my experience, and was with me on my travels. It gave me confidence that leaving my life for this spiritual journey was the right choice. So yeah, this was actually Nanaimo. So thank you, Crystal, for making
Yeah,
that
no worries.
clear.
Yeah.
And this was actually the park in downtown Nanaimo where all this occurred for me.
Okay.
So it was actually kind of funny, but these little landmarks now have a bit of meaning. Mm-hmm. So we but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes in his own nature, so does the attitude of the world towards him. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is, and the source of our happiness. Mahatma Gandhi. So throughout my adult life, I had several large-scale visioning successes, such as manifesting the wage hours, environment management structure, and vacation days of a position in a field I knew nothing about. I'd seen the detail in my mind's eye and wrote about it in a journal with desires that would have appeared like wishful thinking, felt the being state, and had thoughts believing they were present moment. Its manifestation, the level of detail matching the vision, which I didn't become aware of until after I had gotten the job and was in the position already, was beyond statistical chance, proving to myself what I'd already known at this point, that visioning was real. This occurred when I was about 25 years old. I have used it in all aspects of my life, from condos and houses that I desired to live in, objects in need, such as a computer, the healing of injuries, and small things like unlikely parking spots, returning products to stores with no return policies, and manifesting money for random charges on bills, just to name a few. I am no master of it, though. As life circumstances have changed, so did my thoughts and worldview, unknowingly impacting my ability to vision, resulting in long stretches of my life in which I was unsuccessful. In time, this helped me understand the mechanics of it, if you will, such as the importance of focusing on the being state and the influence of unconscious, superficial drives in life that the soul cares very little about. Being a creator means the world around ourselves, the good and the bad, is created by our thoughts and feelings, a mere effect of our inner world to the outer world. Therefore, a larger sense of responsibility has to be placed on our projection of what we think and feel. When we have created something, good or bad, we need to reflect on what thoughts and feelings created it to help us better understand how we can consciously use this ability. From my own personal experience, I believe there is no quicker way to self-realization than through visioning. Because when I was successful, my personal feelings and desires felt a part of the universe and known by God. And believe what you will, but in times of unity, when I was connected, I could feel this was true, that God, the living unified field, was aware of my vision, therefore assuring me of its success. Then I simply lived in expectation of the desired manifestation, solidifying it into reality. This type of relationship with our Creator is beyond it being a mechanical energy. It is aware of us individually, and this realization further deepened the experience of unity. When we vision, we are simply speaking its language. So, how to vision. So that's the whole build up about where my experience all comes from. And so now I'm going to talk to you about what I've learned, kind of the gist of what I can offer you or tell you about on how to vision. So, what are you doing after this presentation? Hey, Crystal, what are you doing after the presentation?
What am I doing after the presentation? I'm going to just sort of wipe my brow because of all this craziness with the with all the technical difficulties. And I again, I apologize to everybody. I didn't want to have to take a break, but like I mean, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be a good quality for everyone. So I know that some people were a bit upset, and I apologize to those people. So at least we didn't have to break. So at least we're back. So I think I'm just going to have a very large glass of wine. I think that's what.
Great. There you go. Okay. So, did you notice the thought that imaged you having the glass of wine? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
I did
You visioned.
actually. Yeah, I did.
You visioned. Yeah, that's what visioning is.
Yeah.
You just did it. You visioned. You
Okay.
imagined the future event. And the one thing. So when I was teaching meditation, the one thing that I loved so much was when people realized that every thought is an image. So you have this idea that you're going to drink wine after the presentation, and you actually have an image in the background sitting there of you drinking that wine, pouring that glass, or having that cup, or having that glass. And that's what visioning is. It's the future outcome projected by the mind. So the premise of visioning is actually simple, but its application can appear challenging when our mind has become conditioned to a linear process of time. So number one, time is not real. These are the simplest concepts of visioning broken down. But the reality of them is hard to understand. So time is not real. As Einstein said, time and space are relative to the observer. Consciousness, your spirit, resides in all time or no time, basically timelessness. So the linear experience of time is the illusion. So when you're visioning, you exist there already in the future and seeing with your consciousness the outcome you desire. So technically, that glass of wine, you're already having it. It already exists. There's already that dimension, that space is in the now. The reality is, though, we're living out a linear time of illusion, and you're not there yet because you don't believe you're there yet. But you're there already having that glass of wine. So number two, time is an illusion, but consciousness is all there is, meaning you are connected to all things. So your imagining of the future can affect the universe and create its outcome. And number three, the unified soul field is alive. The unified soul field is alive. It is God, whatever you name people want to put it, Purusha or Shiva or whatever title people want to give it. There's a field and it exists and it's aware. And it is the creator. And you are a part of it. Your awareness springs from it. Therefore, creating as well. So we have the same game that the universe does, which is constant in every single creation. Everything is creating, spawning out, and every moment of space and time is constant and continuous creation, which is exactly what we are doing with every thought, word, and action. Your individuality is the illusion. So when you desire, it's the universe desiring. Right? So that glass of wine, the
Or
universe
that bottle.
is experiencing, right? Your strain right now, your stress, and it's going to be the one having that glass of wine, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole premise. So the universe is contorting and bending to give you the glass of wine, right?
One of
And
many.
you created, right? That's the whole thing. You created a response to the stress, and then you decided to have wine. Right? So in unity, you don't attract, you create, and the universe manifests.
Okay.
So the premise of visioning, time is not real, consciousness is all there is, so you are connected to all there is, and unity, the aware unified soul field, is real. You are it, so you are creating just like it. Now, a lot of these concepts are beyond the mind. So having a practice which can ground you in pure consciousness daily, such as meditation, is very beneficial for quieting the mind to rely on consciousness to manifest a vision. One of the single greatest, obstacle to visioning is the inability to control the mind. So especially when we're in stressful times, we have all this stress, and we can't stop ourselves from thinking about the worst outcomes. And this is the benefit. I've been meditating for over 25 years, and that's the most. I think one of the great strengths about how I'm able to vision is that I can understand the intentions of the thought and simultaneously control my mind when I need to, when it's under stress. And so that's a beneficial. It sounds like hokey. Who cares that people meditate? But in the terms of being able to vision, this ends up being a strength. So the quick formula for visioning is be the desired outcome. So yes, actually, let me back up first here. So the quick formula for visioning. So visioning can help us with the big picture content of our lives, right? Jobs that we want, houses that we want, a car that we want. Of course, these are all things, yes, we can definitely manifest and desire and manifest. But using it on the small binds of our lives, the daily issues of our lives, is great practice to get us comfortable with this ability that we have. So yeah, the quick formula is really basic. Be the desired outcome. So be the desired outcome. Imagine exactly what you want, the detail, and don't think about the how or create opposing thoughts about your desire. So here's an example. You're running to catch the bus, right? A basic thing that any of us could experience at any day of ours, right? You need to catch the bus, and you're late. You feel the security of being on it, so you're being the being state of the desired outcome. I'm on the bus. I feel myself on the bus right now. I'm running to catch the bus, but I'm feeling myself on the bus. And in my imagination, I have the detail of it being the very next bus, because the whole game can get played here. You can feel yourself on the bus, still missed the bus because you didn't imagine it was that bus. So you have to have the imaginative detail, right? And so you can be on the bus, feeling the security of having caught it, and simultaneously in your imagination, it's the next bus that's coming, right? And then you don't think about the how. You're not going to think about, oh, well, the only way I'll be able to do that is if I'm doing this and this and this. Right? You have to get all that out, and you have to live in the moment and try to, live it out.
Is that sort
But
of
the
like
bottom line is you're in the moment of the desire,
is that
and then
sort
you're
of like
imagining the detail.
is that getting out of your own way? Is that sort of what you're trying to get at here?
Perfect. You got it. Yeah. Perfect. You have a desire. You feel the outcome of it. You're living in the detail you want. You get out of your own way. Exactly. Perfect. Perfectly framed.
Okay.
Your car breaks down in the cold, another example. Just something random that can happen to any one of us, right? The car breaks down in the cold, so be the desired outcome. You feel the security of roadside service help right away, right? So someone's coming, and you can feel you don't know that someone's coming, but you visioning someone's coming, and you're experiencing it. You're feeling that security, that comfort that someone's there. And in your imagination, you're seeing them there in a timely manner. And of course, then you have to act on those things, but you're visioning that they show up, and they show up soon, and they show up in a way that doesn't stress you out, and they're happening, and they're coming very quickly, right? So basic ideas, and then you're not thinking about the how or any opposing thoughts that obstruct anything here. So you're just living in the desired outcome of what you want, and you're seeing it in reality. Those are really basic things, and it's a good example of how I've been able to get the parking spots I want really low, and bringing it down, right? Parking spots you want, seeing a food in the grocery store you're hoping is there. You're concerned, they might run out of something, and you're visioning it there. That's how I was able to also return things, return items to stores that had no return policies. Right, I'm imagining them, I'm seeing them that they're taking that product back, and they're sympathizing or they're agreeing. So those are all tiny details about how you can just live out your life on the most basic fundamental level, and apply visioning and exercise it and see how it works for you, right?
Actually,
Go ahead. Yep.
yeah, I just had a quick question here, and it's actually something that I wanted to know. I have a question from one of our members here, Jet Set, and he says, "How do you be the outcome? Do you just think it?" And that's a good question, because so. Are you sort of? I know you say you're talking about creation, but then is that a situation where you're creating, for example, like you wanted to bring back items to a store that doesn't have a return policy? Are you creating, or, and this is something I want to sort of dovetail with what Jet Setter was thinking, Or are you, for example, quantum jumping, where you go jumping from one reality to the other, and as a result, the reality that you want is on a different timeline? Seeing
Okay,
as time, yeah. If you
so
want
I'll actually approach this be the desired outcome, how to be that.
to, okay,
So let me delve into that in this kind of coming up here in this next section.
sure.
Uh, we'll talk about we'll address the other
Sure.
question maybe a bit later,
Okay.
but yeah, I'll definitely get into that right here. Okay, so this is the breaking down the components of visioning, and that's what I'm doing here right now. So, to help us understand how we are creating, here's a description of the tools of creation we use every moment of our lives. Every thought we have, every word we utter, and every action we make are acts of creation that define ourself in the relative world of all choices. Can you see how your own response to the sentence is a choice? And then that choice has defined you. So you're constantly a creation machine that's defining itself. That's what creation is. You have unlimited possibilities, you create, and that creates definition. But this is not all of our power. The rest of our power is in intention, being state, and imagination. These are the tools of our spirit, the tools of our consciousness, the tools of our pure consciousness. And they empower our physical lives with consciousness when we act and use them consciously. With all of these, thought, word, action, intention, being state, and imagination, all six, we are endlessly creating self every moment, every second, every day. The most important to understand of these are the last three. And this is because within every experience we go through of every day of our lives has an intention, has a being state, and has imagination. So let's break these down here. So the joy of consciousness, your joy, all of our joy, is creating and defining our lives, creating our experiences, and the creation of self. We are creator beings. So right now you are choosing how to interpret this information. So you are creating this very moment. To help us understand how we are creating, here's a description of the tools. Oops, have I just repeated this?
Oh,
I
no, you
think
did.
I had two slides that went back to back. Yeah, I did. Sorry about that.
No
Back to back
worries.
slides. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm breaking down the sections here. So intention. So every thought you produce has an intention. Every word uttered has an intention. And every action of your body as it moves through space and time starts with the impulse of intention. You get up to grab a cup of coffee, you have an intention to relax or energize yourself. You want to walk your dog, you have an intention to have a healthy dog. So your body is the sum of all past intentions. And it's the birth, right? The consciousness is in your body, your spirit is in your body, and you're producing a thought that is an intention that has a birth of an intention. The intention is the first impulse that comes out. And that intention, when we're conscious of it, is living consciously. So when we're conscious of our intentions, the intention, so by the way, a thought has an intention. You can even say, so for example, you had the thought of having the glass of wine. Well, it has an intention. What was the intention? Stress relief, right? So it's every single thought is produced, every single action, every single word has and is backed up by an intention. Now the being state. Every thought, so this is an answer to the question you asked here. Every thought, word, and action is produced from a being state. When you drive on a road trip with your partner, what are you being? When you have an interview for that new job, what are you being? Our being state defines our present moment experience. So being state can be hard to conceive because we are constantly in a state of doing to accomplish the activities in our lives. We go to work, we make a phone call, we drive to the mall, we mail a letter, we send off emails. We are constantly in a state of doing. This is a state of mind that supports an autopilot like experience. But to live from consciousness, we live from what we choose to be. That is what we choose as our beingness while we do. In our world, we are trained to think that if we want to be something, we have to do it. But this creative act, by the being state being our creative act, tells us that we be something first and then we do. It is a fundamental paradigm shift to change from doing to being to doing. Living from our being state does not mean we do not do. It simply means we choose what we want to be while we do. Choosing a being state helps us to take control of our lives by choosing how we want to experience what we are experiencing. In essence, we are choosing the experience. By following this, your life will change, and the conscious universe does respond, guaranteed. So, to understand being state, we need to learn to, well, just sit with yourself and be, just exist. Sometimes this is a hard place to get to because we are so used to doing. So, I encourage you right now to just, in this very second, just be. Now, I'm going to ask you, what are you being?
But don't ask me.
I do actually will ask you, Chris. Don't tell me
Oh
what you're being.
no.
It's okay. You can end me off. It's fine. Might be being inquisitive. I might be learning. Right. I might be. You could be stressed. You could be stressed. I'm okay with
You
that.
think?
But you're choosing. There is a being, and it's a choice. Right. That's the bottom line. There's a being state that's actually occurring right now, and we all have a being right now. What are you being? And that's to understand being state and to control being state. We have to understand what we're being in our lives. What being are we choosing? And we're making a choice. There's no outside force that's telling us to be. We make the choice to be, and then that's a being state in response to the outside world. And when we choose consciously, we choose that being state on purpose, consciously. And that's the whole power of visioning, is making a being state. And the most powerful thing to be is in an opposing environment, opposing circumstances to your being state. And yet you're being the thing that you desire. And that's the big energetic key here of consciousness, is the being state that we take control of ourselves. This is the whole premise of I choose to be happy, right? Being happy. Right? I choose to be happy. So what makes you happy? It's not what makes me happy. I choose to be happy. Right? And those are the fundamental differences. And that being state is so obviously I can't go into it too much today, but the premise here is that you want to empower your consciousness. You'll learn to be. Learn to focus on being and what you're doing, what you're being when you're out while you do what you do. So what are you being while you walk your dog? What are you being while you work? What are you being while you're hanging out with your kids? So these are all the being state choices we make in the premise of our lives. But these are choices. And that's the most powerful place to come from. And then visioning is is the next step. Visioning the being state you want to be in that environment or in that future moment, and using your imagination to do it. Yeah. So when we just be, we are not acting automatically. Which is typically a goal-oriented state. But when we're being, we are conscious of our experience and are connected to the present moment. Now let's think about what you are typically being while you do the things. I already gave that example. So that's fine. But that's the whole point. Being is one of those powerful states, and it is the driver and engine of visioning.
Would you say, sorry, just in terms of being, would you say that it's also a situation where, for example, if you just you're not being anything, then you can sort of just let yourself go and let the universe give back to you give you what you want? Is there also a benefit of just sort of letting go and not being anything? I don't know if that's
if you think you're being nothing, you're not conscious of what you're being.
Okay.
So you're always being something. You're always making a choice. Right? You're not. There's no premise here where you're not making a choice. Even to say, okay, I'm going to be nothing, is a choice. You maybe might be repressing.
Okay.
Right? Like it's like you're still being something. You're actually creating a being state out of something, and that might be a repression because you're saying I'm not going to be anything. It's kind of like saying I'm not going to make a choice. Well, that's a choice.
Okay.
Right? It's the same idea, it's the same premise, because you're actually a creative engine. And so you're saying I'm not going to create, but you're actually creating by saying I won't create. It's the same idea. So it's an automatic engine response that is the thing that flows you through space and time. You're always being something. A baby is being in shock from having been born. Right? So there's always a being going on that is tied to the consciousness state of the individual who's manifesting in space and time. You're being something at all times of your existence. Okay. The whole premise here is that are you choosing it consciously or are you unconscious? That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so I mean, does vibrational energy play into that? Like, for example, if you choose to be happy, then I'm sort of negating what's going on around me. Like if there's a whole bunch of craziness going around me, like tonight, with these tech problems.
Yeah.
If I choose to be happy
Yeah.
and not acknowledge or not engage in the crazy, does that at that point, I don't know, change my vibration? And in which case, it changes what the outcome might be in my life. I don't know if I'm making any sense there.
Yes, it
Okay.
definitely can. Yes, it definitely 100% can.
Okay.
It's the energy, yes, you 100% that you're emitting.
Okay.
Your being state is the core of your energy. Your being, it is a being, and then you're taking control of the being that and what that being is emitting. And if you are saying, "I'm going to be happy," and yeah, you definitely 100% could be changing the outcome of how that thing affects you 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So as you think in time and space, so these are the three: intention, being state, and imagination. So as you think in time and space, you visualize in pictures. Imagination is the eye of consciousness. You want to go and hang out with friends? You may actually see the image of what you expect in your mind before you go. You need to go grocery shopping? You may actually see yourself shopping before you have gone. Your imagination projects the future. So if you notice, these three elements, intention, being, and imagination, interact with time. Intention, your body, is the sum of all past intentions. Being state is present moment experience, and imagination is a projection of the future. So altogether, these are our creative powers that impact the code, that impact the holographic universe around us. So application of the tools of creation. What is the intention? So an example, right? We'll go with your glass of wine. I hope that's okay. For me, it's just
Glass of wine or bottle, choose.
And so what is the intention, right? And to understand the intention of the creation is to relax the street, because it was stressful, right? You're managing all these people who are waiting for you.
Yeah.
So it's stressful. Everyone should be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
And then you have you desire to release that stress. And so that's an intention of the creation, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
And why do you desire what you desire? One of the most fundamental problems with visioning, with all the things people can ever want from a vision, is why do you want to vision the thing you want to vision? It's such a very complex and sometimes subtle answer, and sometimes our answers we think we have a simple answer, and yet it's built off of other conditions in our lives, and we're actually intending it for a different reason. An example would be, I want this beautiful hot rod, I want this beautiful car. And you're saying, I intend to have a nice car. I demand to have a nice car. But really, under that intention is an intention to be liked by others. So you're kind of fooling yourself. You actually believe you're saying, I want a nice car, but you're actually having an intention that's underneath it that says, I'm not accepted by other people, and I want to kind of show off I have this car. So you're not honest with yourself. And having the duplicity of intention can mess up the vision. Quite often it does, actually.
Wow.
So it's being conscious of your intentions and having to work through the thoughts that you're having about what's the intention of that vision.
That's heavy. Can we just stop there? Because that's something
Sure.
that I don't think really, honestly, I've ever looked at, because I've always been sort of someone that says, well, I want this, I want that. And I think that you're making a good point, because a lot of people, I think, will go through life and say, oh, I want this, and I keep trying, but nothing ever happens, and I don't
Right.
understand why nothing's happening. And so you're bringing up the point of, like, what is your real intention? Because people say, well, of course I know my intention. My intention is to have this hot rod, this hot car. But you're right. If you don't have the pure intention, like at all
Yeah.
levels, then of course that makes sense. Oh my God, it just hit me on the head. It makes sense that you are not going to get what you want. So for people out there, I'm wondering, for people out there who are saying, oh, I never get what I want, and I'm trying, and I have my vision board, and no. If it's not pure and 100%, then of course you're split intentions. So your mind is split. and
Yeah.
nothing comes together. I don't know. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, you're nailing it right on the
Oh,
head.
okay.
This is a good example of when my life I wasn't able to manifest my visions, was the intention was off.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It actually happened. The kind of period occurred in my 30s when I was kind of on a career path, and so I had the kind of you're not fake, but unauthentic for my spirit. My spirit didn't care about careers and what things looked like on my resume and LinkedIn accounts.
Okay.
And my spirit didn't care about that. And so, but I did. I thought I did, and so the intention was off. My spirit's like, yeah, that's not what makes me happy. My happiness is
Oh,
fulfilling my desires, filling my spirit. But I thought,
absolutely.
I need to start growing up in life. I need to start having these great careers, and all of a sudden I'm able to vision. And it took a long time. It took a couple of years
Of
to figure
course.
out what was going on with me, and of course the core of it was I didn't understand the intention of my desires. I had these desires and I didn't understand the core elements. And of course, what's the real intention is to look good, right? It's
Exactly.
kind of an ego drive. It was like I wanted to be a hot shot, right?
Yeah.
At the party. Hey, this is my job. I got this cool job, and really, I wasn't even concerned with liking the job. I actually wanted to feel good about myself, and that feeling good was actually an external drive created from social pressures. Really, in the
Yeah.
end of the day, and they weren't real drives. They weren't authentic drives to my spirit, and that messed up my ability to vision.
Wow.
And so another example here I put for how important the intention is and understanding that part. I have a line here, and I have a whole part. I have a whole workbook, spiritual workbook. I'll talk about it in a second. But I
Sure.
have a whole section actually dedicated to this point. You created your present circumstances, so accept them. Because when you're visioning, so many people try to attempt visioning, running away from a circumstance. So I have a job I don't like.
Okay.
I want to vision a new job. But you created the job that you're currently in. And if you don't believe you created the job you're currently in, then you won't be able to successfully vision yourself out of the job. Because again, you're actually saying, I don't like that. I don't know what created that. Forget that. Oh, please save me. You're actually creating a duplicity again about your ability to vision. So you're
Okay.
actually splitting out, the ability, and you're not able to authentically materialize what you're desiring. So you have to come to a state of, I'm a creator. I created, and I don't need that creation anymore. It's time to create something new.
Yeah.
And so you're keeping your thoughts balanced about the reality that you're a creator being. Because what the one thing you can't vision from is being a victim. And when you're saying I'm a victim to this, then you're actually saying you don't create. And those two are duplicities that actually disturb the ability to vision.
Wow.
So it's an important part to mention. You created your present circumstances. You have to accept them to move on. And it's just a basic reality about intention, about how the intention of that vision, we have to be conscious of it and the reality about what it actually means for the desire that we desire.
But it's also about not giving away your power, because in what I'm hearing and what you're saying, oh, I hate this job. This sucks. But like, I mean, it's also like you're saying, okay, so I created this job. I don't like it, but I now have the power. So the power is within me, because I think that also by becoming the victim, you're giving away your power. I think it's
Yeah,
about being empowered and saying it's
exactly.
not so much about, oh, it's all about me, but rather it's more about, I can do this and I don't need somebody else to validate, but also I don't need somebody else to do it for me. I mean, you could also say, well, if I had someone to help me, that'd be great, but it's not like I'm a victim in terms of I'm at the whims of these people.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
brilliant. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. When we are a victim, we are taking our own personal power away. When we create thoughts about being a victim, we are removing our ability to change. And so, yeah, it's perfectly said. So, number two, the application of the tools of creation. Number two, what are you being when the vision is fulfilled? So this comes back to, okay, we talked about being state. So let's go back to, the bus. Let's use a very basic example, the bus. We're catching a bus and I'm being on the bus. I'm being secure. How do we be that? You have to imagine the being completed. What would you be? And you can just ask yourself, what would I be? right? And so if as long as you understand what being states are and how to and what they what you're being at any time, just trying to understand that the being state, then you can ask. First off, I guess you'd imagine being on that bus, and you say, well, how would I be? Like, what would my being? What would I be if I was on the bus and I'd caught it? I'd be relieved. I'd probably be secure. I'd be on to work on time, but I'd be getting to work on time. I'd be secure. I think that's probably the best feeling I would have. And then that's your being state. So you're actually feeling the security. So the being is what you're feeling, and you're feeling the security. You're being secure. I'm secure on the bus, and so you have to be the vision fulfilled, and it's tricky. Takes time and energy to figure this stuff out, but that's how we do it. Number three, what are the details you are seeing? Again, coming back to the bus, such a common, I actually have found someone who said that they visioned winning the lottery, and they visioned their numbers, and I forgot the whole detail. He said he visioned their numbers, and they didn't realize, but they weren't checking. So it was like a whole thing where he visioned the numbers but didn't vision winning.
Oh,
so he actually got his numbers but missed it. He missed like the lottery. And then I knew someone who also imagined themselves holding money, but they didn't actually vision the detail that they owned the money, and they ended up working at a bank like 2 months later, and they ended up realizing, oh my God, that was my vision fulfilled. So they didn't own the money, but they had vision holding the money, but forgot to imagine the detail about the way it felt to own the money. And so it's these tiny details you have to vision, the very specific things that you want. And the universe does project out the code, if you will, to materialize and, embody your vision.
So, well, it's sort of kind of like, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. And so he saw the money, but didn't sort of have that. That's funny. I'm sorry, that poor guy. But I'm sure there's some people in the audience. I know, well, imagine you're like, yeah, but I'm working in a bank. There you go. But for those, isn't that just ironic? But for those of us, I'm sure there's some people tonight that are sort of like, you know what? I wouldn't mind winning the lottery. So we were talking before about having to be authentic. And then we were talking before about no victims and owning your power and saying, okay, I created the situation. So if I create a situation where if somebody creates a situation and they're always trying to, instead of having to run for the bus, they're always having to sort of like run to pay their bills, and there's always running and trying to, catch up on their bills. What do you do at that point? Like, what do you have to do? Do I have to win the lottery, or is there another way to say, you know what, I just want to just be secure. I just know that I have the money in the bank and it's not a problem. So I think you mentioned it briefly. You said you all of a sudden were able to get money to pay for your bills. I think people would be definitely interested in that one. You want to just sort of expand on that one?
Right.
I think for all of us, me too.
Yes, I'm very aware of that. Yes, and it's security, right? So there's money is the weirdest of them all because it's a hygiene factor, right? That's actually a line my guru uses, and it's very powerful. And it's the bottom line is you don't think it's like toilet paper. You don't think about it until you need it, right? Otherwise, you're not right. You're not hanging out thinking about toilet paper. Same with money, right? You're not thinking about it until you need it.
Okay.
And otherwise, so it's kind of like a hygiene factor. And money is a weird game because the reality, what you want out of money, is the security of existence. And the reality is that most people use it as the security. But it's not the security, right? The security is the world, is the event, is the circumstances. And so it's a weird game about money. So technically, what most people are desiring, the authentic intention is a happy life, right? The authentic intention is a carefree existence. Typically, that's the intention of wanting money. So that's what you want to be visioning, right? And so in the case of me having to pay bills, those were circumstances where I was caught off guard. And then I'm visioning that's not a problem. And then something actually happens where money out of nowhere, someone owes me money, the money comes into my account. Something like that would happen. And that's it's not looking at money directly as for what it is. It's recognizing there's this interchanging field that we call money, and technically it's a symbol, and all I desire is this thing fulfilled. So you're not looking at money as the thing that can pay all your bills. You're looking at the carefree life where you don't have to think about your bills. That's the pure intention. And what are you being? Well, you're being a carefree person. You're being a person who's happy. You're being a person who's not thinking about those things, right? Those are examples. You have to kind of iron out what those intentions are and what those being states are for each of us individually. But money is a very interesting game with all this.
Yeah,
And
but it seemed that you let go of it. You said, okay, well, you have this bill, so you can just sort of, okay, yeah, there's not a problem. So somehow, I mean, maybe I'm interpreting too much into this, but it seems that you're sort of like, yeah, whatever. You're letting it go. You're not, because there's also this thing about how if you're always living in fear of there's not enough money, then you're going to just create that all the time. Whereas if you sort of let it go, then again, that's that whole thing of not getting out of your own way and just being, like you said, carefree. So that's a part of it then, letting go of the fear because you're comfortable with where you're at right now. Like you don't.
And a good way to think about this. So I've been in several times in the scenario where I jobs switch up really quickly. I'm laid off for some reason, and I was paying rent, and all of a sudden I don't have money for the rent. And instead of panicking, I actually just visioned. And in my visioning, I could actually feel it's going to work out.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm just going to live in that. And by doing so, I was relaxed. And when I was relaxed, I actually was like, out of nowhere, I just listened to my intuition. Oh, hey, you know what? I feel like going to go and call up that friend I haven't talked to in a while. And I wasn't thinking about looking for work. And then out of nowhere, that friend is saying, hey, I've actually just got this new job and they're looking for someone. And boom, that job was in line with the vision that I had.
Got it.
So you're able to listen to your intuition when you're visioning. And otherwise, out of your panic, if you were just listening to your mind and the circumstances, you could be making wrong choices.
Exactly.
And so you're living in a state of visioning, and you have to go by your intuition at that point and your being. So if you're living in your being, are you actually still acting out in the panic? Because your being actually might have you still wanting to look for work, so you're still applying normally as you would. Or your being might say, no, I need to relax. I want to just, that's happening and it's taking me away from my being state. And I want to be in this different state about it. And that might actually send you into a new direction. So it is to a degree getting out of your own way, but it's allowing you to make choices that could be more in line with the fulfillment of your desire.
Exactly.
That's the key. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting take on the money. I think that's very interesting because it's always about. I think we're sort of programmed to believe that you need to have those green dollars in your hand, and without having them in your hand, then there's nothing else. And I think that it's also a matter of just open your mind a bit and say, well, your I guess your abundance or whatever you want to call it can come in many different ways.
Yeah, totally. So I'll keep going on here. So I come back to the quick formula, just as a review. So now that hopefully some of these things make sense.
Okay.
Be the desired outcome. Imagine exactly what you want, and don't think about the how or opposing thoughts about your desire. So I have a workbook, and it's a kind of a companion to my rising, my story with the aliens. And I took a lot of my 20 plus years of spiritual work and with my guru and such as well too, and with the aliens, and I put it into a workbook. And there's a whole visioning section, and I actually have exercises that are kind of the more mental aspects of visioning that help us get used to it. And so I want to explore some of these here. I'll just briefly go over them. And so one of the things that helps us with visioning is knowing the world around you is unreal. It's a hologram, right? Sometimes having the knowledge about visioning and then immersing ourselves in quantum text, quantum books, books about quantum reality. This idea that underneath all of existence is an unreality that is interlinked with our consciousness helps us actually feel security about visioning. You can almost get into the state where you're saying, that's not real. That money's coming in, or that problem is coming in, or, this issue is coming in, that bill I have to pay. It's not part of reality. That my reality is it's already fulfilled. I have that bill's already paid. I don't have to worry about it. And you're literally living in a dimensional state, if you will, where the physical tissue reality isn't real, and what it is your consciousness underneath. And so it's really sometimes good to, immerse ourselves in quantum, content. I spent a whole lot of time immersing myself in simulation theory. I can tell you a lot of the details about the scientific facts about the simulation theory, why scientists are convinced we're a part of a simulation. And I did that because, it makes me feel secure in my reality and my ability to vision, which only empowers my actual outcome with visioning. The more secure you are, the more real it becomes. And so a part of that whole understanding that it's unreal, that everything is kind of an energy that sits underneath all of existence, is one of the most powerful parts about visioning. That limitations of resources is a state of mind. And if you have can't imagine that, that's one of the limitations of the brain and why our visioning is a struggle for us in our human existence. Because we don't live in a world where we imagine the unlimited existence that actually that exists underneath all of reality. So, but the Vedas did. So I'm going to say this sloka here. It's a very powerful sloka. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnamuda Chayate, Purnasya Purnadhyaya, Purnamavasya Shiva Shayate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And what it translates as is that is infinite. This is infinite. From that infinite arises this infinite. This infinite is brought forth from that infinite, and that infinite remains infinite. This is a visioning riddle. Your brain should be like, what? It's like kind of breaks the brain.
Pretty much.
And yeah, and that's where visioning exists. So this is a great mysterious sloka. And meditate on the meaning of this. Because when you meditate on the meaning of this, you'll understand the power of visioning. And it's in the power of visioning that real manifestation occurs. It's in knowing that everything is unlimited. And an example of this is I was looking for an apartment. I had to go spend a year or 6 months. I can't remember. I think it was about 6 months. It's a while ago now in Nelson. I was there for a job. And I was like, I want to live there. I was having to rent an apartment. And everyone said, no, you won't be able to rent an apartment there. No. There's no apartments ever available there. That's actually a really high-end area. And you won't be able to rent there. And I was like, no, I'm going to vision that. And I got it. And it's because I didn't listen to any limitations. I didn't have limitations in my head. I didn't listen to people's limitations put onto me. I said, no, what I want is what I want. And I'm desiring that and I'm getting it. And I got it. I got a beautiful apartment that had this amazing view of the mountains, and it's the perfect example of limitations of resources is a state of mind. And same with jobs. Where sometimes, okay, I want to vision this job, and you have the thoughts in your head. There's only so many positions. I gotta get that position. I gotta get that position, and you're already living the vision. The vision doesn't live in a limitation. It lives in almost the same that there's unlimited abundance of jobs, and you got the one that you desire. So it's a very powerful state to be in. And this is how we free ourselves from our mind. And this is where visioning really exists.
Well, I have to say, I'm sort of, I'm a bit of a Star Wars geek here. And thinking of Yoda saying, you've got to unlearn what you've learned, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's because it's, I know, little guy, but it's because we go through life and this society out there telling us, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No, you can't be whatever. And no, you can't this. You can't this, no, this, that. And I think that really, especially now, I think if we were talking about this 20, 30 years ago, people would just be like, what? But I think right now, especially now, where people are beginning to say, you know what? I don't think this is really for me. And I think people are also being authentic and saying, you know what, I have to do what I want to do. And I think there's a lot of things where you gave an example of like, well, I want this hot car because I want to get, the hot chicks or impress my friends, that kind of thing. And It's because we've been so programmed in this society that we have to fulfill a certain, checkbox of you need
Yeah.
this job and you need that girl and you need that guy and you need this apartment, all this kind of jazz. And if you
Yeah.
just sort of listen to yourself and you're just happy and say, look, my parents want me to have this big fat house, but I'd just be fine with a small apartment here in Nelson, BC, whatever. And I think it's about just being happy with yourself. And yes, we want to help and please people, but I think once we stop trying to please others, I think that's a big thing. Without trying to
Yeah.
please others or trying to look a certain way in society, if you're just listening to yourself and you say, this is what I really want, in truth and honesty, I think that at that point you're going to have a lot easier time, like you said, manifesting the job because you said, look, you wanted that job, you wanted that apartment in BC, and that's what you
Yeah.
wanted. And it wasn't,
Yeah.
and I mean, if I understand the story correctly, it wasn't so much about trying to please this person or that person. You ignored the people, and so that's a big thing. But at the same time, you're also saying, well, this is what I want, you know.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. 100% you got it. And I totally agree with you too. We're in a state in our society where a lot of these concepts are better accepted, maybe not fully understood, but definitely accepted. And some of them, they are accepted, they are understood now. And yeah, you're right. 20 or 30 years ago, we couldn't have talked like
No.
this. So another, so exercises to get good at visioning. We talked a bit more about, we talked about being state, and that's, I think, a real premise to understanding visioning is being conscious about being state, about what you're being and what you're choosing to be when you go do the things you do, and you have more control over your being than you believe you do. So those are exercises are helpful to think about. In imagination, people can't exercise imagination enough. You know, there are practices with which you can do to exercise imagination that gets you good at visioning. And examples of this are imagining landscapes and details, seeing a mountain, seeing the snow capped on the mountain, and seeing a river underneath, and feeling the wind on your skin as you look at the mountain. How hearing and sensations on the skin, imagining smells. All these things are great for doing as a normal exercise to imagine to exercise your imagination. But when needed to apply to visioning, they're amazing because the better you get at imagination, the better skilled you get at seeing all the variety of things that one can imagine. Then the better you become at exercising the details of visioning. And so those two things go hand in hand: imagination, exercising imagination, and the ability to vision on the spot. Another that has to be, I cannot emphasize enough, to develop a relationship with your source, with the God field, higher self, what anybody wants to call it. But it is aware. It's a co-relationship. Visioning is not a self-experience. Visioning is a co-experience with the unified field. And having a relationship with source and then visioning and knowing that my source is aware of my vision is the most powerful place to be in. And I guarantee you manifest your vision when you feel the closer you are to your source, the more likely you are to manifest that vision. It's all interrelated. Source visioning. You're speaking its language when you're visioning and you have a relationship with source. These two things are the connecting pieces here. Be friends with your God, whatever that thing is, and feel it on the inside. Know your consciousness is its consciousness. And then when you're having a desire, something that needs to be visioned, fulfilled, it happens. And if it doesn't happen, then you have a relationship to understand why, to ask questions. What was in me that didn't get it fulfilled? And you can actually get answers as well too. What thoughts were kind of the opposition from the fulfillment of that vision?
I'm sure there's some people that are going to be out there saying, but how do I develop a relationship with source? Just a quick sort of rundown. How does somebody do that? Is it through? I know it's a big topic.
Rundown.
Yeah.
A quick rundown about 40, 60 years of anyone's life.
I know.
It's a long process.
I know.
Source is so this is what I meditate, but you have to find God. You have to find your power, wherever that is for you. And I'm a believer of people, you know, I'm a believer of the old traditions. I am. Of course, yes, they are corrupt, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that, you can apply modern thinking, modern spiritual thinking, maybe even modern New Age thinking to some old religions, right? No, we don't have to imagine that the Christian religion was against everybody else and trying to dominate people, even though it might have been doing that in the ancient world. Jesus was not talking like that, and we can look at that,
Yeah.
and you can say maybe he was. We can look at the fact that he said, "No, yea, not that ye are gods," right? So he's actually trying to empower people. And when we can look at that ourselves, he can end up being, an actual tool for people to experience God, or Krishna, or the Buddha, right? However people do it, but there is you have to find it. Like it's one of the biggest crises of the planet right now, is that people are all over the place when it comes to this, how to find their source. And finding source is actually the fundamental to getting visioning up and running and making it work in your lives, making you feel like you actually have God power in you. And if you don't know you have God power, and if you even believe this, then you're actually just espousing something you don't even understand. And so the reality is that the only way to experience it is to know you're a creator and to actually experience creation. And so it's a co-relationship, finding God and finding and visioning and making those two things work.
Yeah.
But the how is a long-term life process.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of saying this for a long time. People need to figure this part out, because I use a guru, and that works for me. And I also saw my higher self in the afterlife. That also works for me. And those two things combined, I feel very secure in my experience of source. And so that helps me with the visioning process. And I can only just hammer down, find God, find God, find God, whatever that is for you, find source, find higher self, whatever that is for you, and know that it knows your vision. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess it'd be okay for me to just sort of start talking out loud. I mean, I know that some people, maybe bristle at the idea of God, but I think just finding your source within, if you just sort of look within, I guess, right? Like, and say, look, if I can just talk out loud, because I assume that source, if source is aware of my desire, then source is aware of me talking to it, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I could just sort of talk out loud like a weirdo in my
Yeah.
apartment, of course. Now, maybe not out on the street, but in my apartment, I often do this, and I do it because I don't want people to think I'm nuts. But like, I mean, I just sort of literally just sit there and start talking out loud and saying, look, I understand about this, and I know I did this, and okay, whatever, blah blah. But I know that it's okay for me to talk out there, because it is that connection, but it's also because it can. In my head, I feel that
Yeah.
it can hear me and it knows, and I look up and I say,
Yes.
well, I know you know about this and the blah blah blah. It hears me.
Brilliant.
So if
That's
anybody wants to
exactly
use
it.
that, why
That's
not?
exactly it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And these methods need to be normalized. And I
Yes.
actually agree with you. And I 100% can talk to it as well too. And then I can get that loving, warm embrace from the field and feel it. And I have to be a certain state of focus, and I have to have a certain intention. And yes, you can definitely empower the personal experience of God. And 100%, it is aware of our interaction. And I am 100% convinced it wants nothing but that type of relationship.
Absolutely.
And there's a weird game. The human in the Western society is absolutely appalled by this, because we keep thinking we lose our power and you're pretending to an imaginary thing. But the higher self is a level of awareness of our own selves that can't come into the body, because it's too advanced. It's too off into another dimension of outside space and time. So it works with the dynamic of praying or whatever you do, communicating as if it's another source, another power outside of us. It's technically you, but when you can't believe in you, then you have to find a God, and it's merged in the God field. So it works just the same. To say, God, I know you can hear me. I can feel you, God. Tell me, give me a sign. And I've had that so many times, and the universe does something random. A sunbeam in a cloudy day, or something like points down on me, or a friend drops a book. Or I actually have seen in a scenario. I've actually had the scenario where the book fell on the sidewalk, and I was walking, and this book was there, and it was like the book answering this thing I asked for. And so
Oh,
the synchronicities like pick up when you believe. The
okay.
universe does like twist, and it's just amazing that this stuff can
Okay.
happen.
It's kind
And
of
these are the
cool.
personal experiences that we are given
Hmm.
to make that connection.
Yeah,
And the more
serendipity.
you believe, the more that connection gets solidified. It's actually very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right.
yeah.
So I'll let you
Great.
continue.
Great point. And so the last one here, so exercises to get good at visioning, controlling our thoughts. Another really, a challenging thing, and I recommend meditation for this, learning how to quiet the mind and recognizing what thoughts we're having. Some people don't even know that they're having negative thoughts. And we have to get into a state where we're observing our thoughts and you're able to stop thoughts. No, I'm not going to have that negative thought. I know this is my vision. I'm not going to imagine not getting that job. I fully get that job. And you have the pure intention, you got the pure being state, you're relying on source, and you're not thinking any negative thoughts. Is the most powerful place to be in. And okay, so this is the last little section here. We're just some quick tips to help manifest a vision. You got a vision, you got the being state, you got the imagination, you've got the belief, you got the power, you're stopping the thoughts. Now these are the tips that help oomph it, to help manifest it into reality. Love the vision. Oh my God, I've got that job. Oh my God, I love that job. Oh, I love my vision. I love this. This is so much fun. You have to be in that type of state, loving the vision. Be grateful for the vision already accomplished. I'm so grateful I got that job. Oh my God, I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you. Oh my, and you can feel it. You can feel that you've got the job. I'm grateful for it. I love it so much. Expect, right? You're living in a state of a creative mind frame where the universe is receptive to your thoughts. So it provides with the pure intention, the pure being state. You're living in that. Same with with me wanting that money, right? I lived in a state of expectation. I knew it. I said in the writing there, I actually knew everything would be okay. So I was living in a state of knowing. I was living in a state of expectation, and the universe complied, right? Be detached. One of the biggest problems and why you need to control your thoughts. Because if you can't pay rent, typically you're not detached. And the only way to actually manifest the vision is to get out of your way, as you keep saying, which is perfect. Be detached, get out of your way. This is just a quick trick that I learned and I think helps. So in your imagination, and when I got that job, I mentioned I got this job that matched all these details of my vision. I actually was shrouding the vision in like golden light. So I was at the job, but there was this like light shimmering in all my imagination. The people, the feelings I was having, and there's something about light and imagination that I think makes it maybe more consciousness driven. I don't know what it is. I actually don't have the answer for it, but it's a trick that I learned. Golden light, shrouding your vision in golden light, seeing all the details of the vision, but still seeing it in golden light. And here's another last little trick that I've used and definitely works. Write out the vision in like a journal or on a piece of paper and put it under your pillow. And before you sleep, feel the vision already accomplished. So you're living in the future state of the vision. So it's just a little trick. And also that one worked for me too.
Okay, well, that's cool.
So these are the mechanics of visioning. If you attempted and were unsuccessful, you have to spend time understanding why it didn't manifest. Sometimes unmanifested visions stem from contradictory images in the subconscious regarding your intention or imagination. Ask your higher self or your guidance or in a dream or in a meditation why it didn't manifest. Seek an answer. You only get better by doing so. Successful visioning makes life a joy. When we then experience the game that life is meant to be, a sport to be played, a creation playground for the purpose of experiencing our godhood, which is its purpose. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
My name is Jeff Selver. This is my book, The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. So yeah, my website, jeffselver.com, and you can email me at jeffselver@gmail.com. So
That's great.
that's
Well,
it.
that's amazing. Thank you so much. I hear the cheers in the audience. But I actually have, we actually have a format here at the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective where people can send me their Skype information and then I can call them. And I actually have someone who wants to ask you a question, Jeff. So I'm just going to
Okay.
give them a ding on Skype here. And
Sure.
we're going to ask the question and see what they have to say. So, here we go. Hello? Hello?
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Ingrid, is that you?
It is.
Okay, that's great. So, what's your question for Jeff?
Okay. So first I just want to say, Jeff, this has been amazing. This is so great. I am not
Thank
sure
you.
what I anticipated, but it wasn't this. I was so pleasantly surprised. I've loved
Awesome.
it.
Thank you. Yeah.
My question is, so it's a two-part question. The first is, the task of becoming self-regulated and being able to monitor thoughts and stop them and realize in the moment that you're in the 0 point and you can pivot, right?
Yes.
You have the
Yeah.
ability to pivot, and
Yeah.
you have the ability to recognize that what's been created has been created from past intention setting,
Yeah.
mostly unconscious. And so
Yeah.
utilizing the ability to pivot requires a level of consciousness that has to be developed. It's not like just anybody can do it. You have to become aware of
Yeah.
your thoughts. And so this sounds really great. And it is absolutely something that I teach and that I do and that I am still practicing. It's a practice.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about where this individual ability to manifest and really manipulate time, space, and space-time, where it meets the collective and how we are all collectively creating. Can you speak to that at all?
So were there two questions? One about the mind.
So Ingrid, are you talking about, for example, the ability to create as an individual and how that fits in with how we create as a group? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. Well, it was more making an observation about the development
Okay.
of being more conscious and more self-regulated, being able to pause and take responsibility for what's been created and make a different choice, right? So that requires consciousness development for people. It's not just something,
Right.
It's not just about like, oh, I want this, so I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to get this.
Right.
If you're unconscious, you're creating unconsciously. And if you haven't cleaned and cleared yourself from your ego, from your traumas, from your densities, that's mostly where you're creating from, unconsciously.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So that's it. That's more of a statement. And my question is, for someone who is on this path of practice, attempting to be more conscious, attempting to participate in a joyous co-creation of everything, where and how does this individual creation come into contact with the collective creation?
Yeah. So my personal experience, this is great questions, and your first point is bang on, and I totally agree. And I can only emphasize meditation as the tool that gets us aware of our thoughts, and therefore strengthens the ability to redirect the thought. And you're totally correct that coming at this with the baggage of of a mind that has not attempted to practice, self-control, I guess, or to discipline itself, is 100% of is only going to create hindrances in that ability. So you've just kind of nailed it. I really like the way you described it. So it's really, really great. So yeah, to the second point, my personal experience is that everyone's visioning, and we can actually vision some people getting doing things that we desire them to do. And I do believe that I think actually I've been told this, and I think it's 100% accurate. The strongest vision wins. So someone might not be aware that they have a vision, and you have a vision that opposes their vision, and your vision could win. And I don't mean win, but I do mean that we're all creating, and that's the whole bottom line. At every second, at every moment, everybody's a part of the collective making a creation. And yeah, your desire, I can only imagine there's just a multiplicity of things going on here that are maybe not always consistent with the collective. But in some cases, in the case where I got a job and I was able to vision it, what's obvious to me is that I had a God desire, a desire of the source, and it manifested a space in the job. And then all of a sudden, when I'm in that job, I'm in the proper place to affect everybody else. And now I'm in this new job, and I become friends with certain people, and I impact them, and they impact me. And everything was part of like a collective agreement, if you will, on some other level that just looked like I got a new job. And so there was obviously something going on in space-time there that allowed me to step into that space that involved my desire and me envisioning and manifesting. And so there's a game that goes on there. But there's also scenarios here where I've tried visioning. I want certain people to, I want to be interacting with certain people, and I can't make it happen. But I'm constantly visioning it. But what happens is a manifestation that has nothing to do with the person, but is also a fulfillment of the feeling. So I was never able to manifest anything from the individual, but the feeling was materialized. The vision materialized in another way. So it's actually kind of like it was just showing me that I couldn't get that person to materialize the vision, but in other cases I have been able to do it. I've been able to vision, desire a certain friend that I wanted something from, and I was like, I'm going to vision it, and I got it from them. And I won't go into those details. So, but what that shows me is that it's complex. People have there's visions going off on every single individual in the collective. And I think at times we can influence it, and at other times we can't. And at other times we're supposed to. Like the job, where I'm like, it obviously was some kind of something where the universe was in me, is all perfectly timed, and I materialized it, and then I'm all of a sudden impacting these people's lives, and they're impacting mine. And so I guess I didn't have the full answer to the question, but I was aware that it's complex. And I think that, again, what it comes back to, what I believe it is the strongest vision wins. And I don't like using the word win, but it's the strongest vision materializes, maybe is probably the best way to frame that. So that's my experience with the collective aspect of this. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. What makes it the strongest vision, right? Because that starts to feel like it's willpower, like my will is stronger than your will. And that's not necessarily a vision
drawing from source
of a collective that I'm interested in.
Yeah, the drawing from source, I think, is going to create the most power you could ever generate for your coming from your higher self purely. And that's an exercise. Yeah. That's not something you would just do willy-nilly. I'm going to start drawing from my higher self. It's something that you have to live a life designed to do, right? You have to live a life that's coming, that exercises source, a relationship with source, a relationship with higher self. And then in those moments, yeah, you might be able to vision things for other people. And I've been able to do that. And I've been able to help people with that too. Someone lost their dog, I helped them with their dog. In fact, someone called me up and said, "Can you vision my dog found? Because I know you're good at this." And I visioned it, and their dog came back to them like 5 minutes later, and they thanked me for it. And so I'm able to do that because, yeah, I have a practice where I focus on source. And I think that helps create the power, the engine, in these kind of circumstances. Then of course that was for a pure cause as well too, right? I'm trying to help them, and so I'm caring for them in that moment, and I'm really concerned for them. And I think all those things create that purity, the love, and that purity is a real driver for visions, and it's the God driver. For everything that you can almost identify as God, purity and love are going to create the more powerful vision. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ingrid, for calling into the show. As I've always pointed out, if anybody wants to call in and ask a question directly to our speaker, in this case it's Jeff, but if ever you guys want to call in and ask a question, you could do so by sending me your Skype information, and then I can call you. So thank you again, Ingrid, for that question. And I just want to sort of just jump in here just a little bit with, I know that Ingrid mentioned the whole collective thing. And what I find interesting about the concept of the collective is the fact that we as humans, and we touched upon it before, Jeff, when we were talking, is that we as a people on this planet have been controlled. And because we are such powerful beings, the powers that be have been using that to manifest what they want in this society. Influencing us through media, or influencing us through deception, and creating a certain kind of world that we're in. And I feel what's interesting and what's happening now, and sort of going back into the idea of the collective, is that as a collective, we as a people are starting to say, wait a minute, I don't want to just live in this world that is going to be doom and gloom, or is only going to make a certain amount of people rich, or is only going to give a certain amount of power to certain people. I think we're now as a collective starting to turn around and say, you know what, wait a minute, maybe we should work together as a whole. And they're trying to, through the use of media, give the impression that there's only certain people that are in charge, or certain people that have power. But when we as people, we really do have a lot of power, and we are making changes. And I find that 2025 is going to be one of those years where we realize that through our power of thought and through our own agency, we are going to be able to bring about the world that we want to live. Like, be the world you want to live in, be the people you want to be in. And I think that through thought, and especially through what you're talking about, Jeff, through visioning, is that we're learning to take back our power, and we're learning as a collective to take back our power, and learning as a collective to use that power for the greater good, for the greater collective, and not to make this guy rich or that guy rich or that person, have more power. So it's a war right now for our minds. And I think that when you talk about the strongest vision winning, I think that's the vision that's starting to win. It used to be the other vision before, the negativity, but that's starting to fall apart. And I think that the collective vision of wanting a better world is the one that's starting to win. And you don't see it in the media because they're hiding it. But we are the ones that are going to make that happen. So I think that this is sort of tying what Ingrid was saying. I think that's sort of where we're headed with that. It's excuse me. We're learning to sort of control that. But just wanted to see if anybody else had any questions. I know that here we had a comment through I think Bill Simmons. He says, do you need to talk out loud to God, or can you just use your thoughts silently? So if you're on a bus and you don't look like a weirdo, how do you do that?
No, of course. It's all going to be personal. Mm-hmm. So for some people, it'll be going down to the rivers. For some people, it'll be climbing the mountain. For some people, it's in meditation. Mm-hmm. I actually just recommend making it as personal for yourself as possible. So however that is for you. Mm-hmm. And if that's through your thoughts while you're on the couch, let it be. For some people, it's speaking. Yeah. And I think it's self-discovery. That's the whole thing about self-discovery. And it's going to manifest for you in a way that is, a part of you. And so however you feel is the best way to do that, you're going to have that knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the key. And then if that doesn't work, then you keep trying. Look for something new that generates that will inside yourself to make that connection. Mm-hmm. That's the most important part. It isn't actually the method. Mm-hmm. It's the drive. Have that desire. You have to have that desire. Mm-hmm. Have the desire, and however it wants to manifest, let it be that way.
Okay, cool. And I have an interesting question here from Jet Saturn. He says here, how can I find a guru? I mean, that's a deep question. We could be here all
Very
night.
deep, yeah.
But you want to tell us how you found your guru and maybe give us some tips as to what somebody
Yeah,
might, 'cause I know you have an interesting story about behind how you found your guru, no?
yeah, yeah. When the student is ready, the guru will come. That's the big line, and
Yeah.
it's pretty real. The other side to it is you can actually vision a guru, and I agree with doing something like that. However, that would work for you. Um, so otherwise, you know, it's really about the personal connection, and yeah, you have to be ready for something like that. And for me, it was a part of my path. At the time, it didn't feel like that. I was just listening to the synchronicities that were happening in my life. And you're correct, Crystal. The aliens themselves were actually involved in sending me there. And I met my partner who was following the guru, and so we fell in love. And she had a guru, and so when I came back to Toronto, I ended up following him as well too. And it was all kind of a alignment that was very perfect at the time. And so that was obviously a part of my path to do that, and I'm very grateful for it. And the only thing I can say is that, yeah, when the student is ready, the guru comes. That's the bottom line. And again, that drive, you have to want that drive. And I totally recommend visioning it. I actually think that gurus can come in many forms, and that's the other part too. It doesn't have to be, the regular guru per se, but it can come in many forms. But I think that if you were ardent and you desired that and you stuck to it and you visioned it, I believe something would come. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And I also had another question from Jet Setter. He asked this a little bit before, but there's a part of this as well in this in our presentation tonight about getting in contact with different AT groups. And he says, if we didn't come here with a contract like Jeff did, can we still develop the ability to contact, or how do we do so in a safe with benevolent ETs? Like, so I think basically his question is, how can we develop a connection with benevolent ETs? I know that some people say that they have a contract before they come here to have that kind of experience. But if people want to have that experience, do you have any?
Yeah, it's not my personal forte nor understanding. Is helping other people connect to ETs. What I can tell you, I notice, at least observe, is that they are very open, actually. But everything happens with a purpose, and they're very aware of the individual. And I would actually say that everybody I know who talks publicly or supports this phenomenon in some way, having a YouTube channel, having their own podcast, um, can actually, it's like somehow kind of weird. It's as if they know the person speaking, and they end up kind of interacting with the person. There's several podcasters out there. Crystal, I don't know if you're one of them actually, but where they end up interacting with the phenomenon. And then the more public they are helping, supporting, or doing podcasts, whatever, the more the phenomenon begins to interact with even more. So, but it's specific to individuals. It's never this grand blanket thing. They're very aware. They're very aware of me, even when I'm interacting with the elder. She does certain things and doesn't do certain things, and everything's specific to myself. And so I don't really have like good advice. I do believe CE5 is real, and I do believe the basics of what CE5 is all about. Just simple, loving, and want to meet, and out of love, out of interest and curiosity and love, and I've more than once have I heard people say, "I want to believe. Show me that you're real," and something literally flies to the sky. Like
Oh.
as if in response to something like that. And they're not interested in being filmed, and they're not interested in any of the
Hollywood.
ego stuff. They're very aware of ego, like human ego desires too.
Okay.
And I think that, yeah, I think those kind of things have to be out of the picture.
Okay.
And kind of a purity of intention and purity of love, I think definitely can draw them. But they're very specific about what they're trying to accomplish. So it's not an easy thing. And but I do definitely witness when people are interested in supporting the phenomenon, somehow they end up interacting with it.
Okay.
And that seems to be very conscious or very typical. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I have another question here from another one of our members. And he's also contacted us on Skype. And so he wants to ask a question. So we'll try to connect with him. And I think that, again, if anybody wants to call on and give us their information on Skype, they can ask a question. So is this Ross?
Yes.
Hi, Ross.
Me.
How you doing?
Hi, Crystal. How you doing?
I'm fine. You?
Jeff.
Hey.
Hi, Ross. Pleased to meet you. Yeah.
Great to hear it. Dealing with being modest with the very interesting energies. It's even myself, and I don't consider myself amateur. It's having, playing tricks on me, trying to dealing with it with very interesting reality. So yes, I'm okay. Just going through some stuff.
Yeah. And so what was your question for Jeff? Did you have a particular question for Jeff, Ross?
Yeah, yes, I do. So, Jeff, I guess so, my question is everybody today, everybody is losing their mind. They are freaking out and very disturbed, and they don't know what to do with themselves. We know what everybody needs to do, and basically going within and really doing inner work, connecting with one's heart, and among other things. So, I mean, would you share anything that it's relevant, that that you have been that you've been given the information that can be used for this specific times, not any other times, but this specific times in our human evolution that we are going through?
That's an excellent question. But I think just to sort of clarify, I think that for example, you'll find a lot of videos on YouTube about people, different alien races giving messages about where humanity is at this time. And I think that maybe what we're looking to see is that maybe do you have connections with the groups that you're working with that have a particular message for humanity at this time? Because we're sort of going through, like Ross is saying, we're going through a lot of times of tribulation, and I think people are looking for a positive message from up on high. Do you think you have anything, or if you had to interpret any kind of message from the beings that you're working with?
Yeah.
It's a loaded question, but
yeah, no, I think the reality is that we are in challenging times, and I could speak to that. I don't know that it's helpful, because I think that we put ourselves here, and so what good does it do to talk about anything else at this time? I think the reality is that people have to find their power, and I think that's the reality. And I think that we have to find our strength and our power, and our power isn't in our governments. It's not in our groups. It's not in our friends. It's not in our tribes. We hold our own power individually, and so many people believe our power is in our tribes, our friends, our groups, and it's not. And that's the illusion. And we struggle when we believe our power is within other people. And so, yeah, because it could be challenging times. And if I said anything positive about what I think they're saying and da 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 da, I'd actually be lying. So I can't speak. I actually, I'm aware of some things, and I think that I'm aware that people are wanting positivity, and I agree with that desire. But the aliens that I'm aware of are, uh, you know, hard times were they've been talking about hard times coming for decades, and yeah, we might just be coming upon it as the cusp of it right now. But yeah, and the bottom line is that once that passes, yeah, that there's a transition that's going to happen here, and so yeah, and of course that transition is it is utopia. It's when you see what their tech can do, this is utopia. So there is such a thing as utopia here, and it's the reality is that you got quantum tech. It's undeniable. Their tech is quantum tech of spirit tech, basically. I just saw another interview with some other whistleblower guy, and he's oh, it was Eric Davis, and Eric Davis is saying we took it apart, couldn't find propulsion, couldn't find any mechanism that controlled it. So you're talking about a UFO that they can't figure out what the hell powers it. And I'm like, oh yeah, consciousness, guys. I don't know when you'll figure it out. They're saying consciousness, but they still haven't figured it out. They're still pretending like there's some little mechanism that says consciousness right there in some words or something. I don't know what the hell they're looking for, but it's consciousness driven is what it is. And some of them get it because we have this new barber guy, and that's the whole point. Is the thing is consciousness driven because it's actually a manifestation. They're calling it manifestations. It's God, man. This stuff is real. This is quantum tech, God consciousness stuff, and all the consciousness stuff is real. So it means all the utopia stuff is real. It's all real, and there is a transition that gets us there, and that transition could be hard. And the only way through it is to find your power. And that's it. You have to find your power. You have to find your vision, to find your source, and our tribes and our groups could steer us away from that source. So you have to find it within, and you have to find it independently sometimes from those groups and those tribes, and sometimes just unplugging from social media is the answer to these things.
That would help a big deal.
Yeah, we are source stressed watching what's happening in Russia. Right? Like it's like thousands and thousands of kilometers away. Like stop focusing on something that's so far away. And same, sometimes you need to separate from yourself from those things by realizing that when you just take it all apart from your world, the world you walk down the street in isn't affected by this stuff. The park isn't affected by this right now. And you can just still live out a very peaceful life, not focusing on those things and finding your power.
Yeah.
Yes, you absolutely right. Right, everything lies within, and everything lies within. That's the ultimate answer. Now you have said something. You are aware of things. What things are you alluding to that you're aware of?
Could this be towards the rising? Because I know that you're saying, okay, we have to focus on ourselves, but some of that message or some of the positive messages that the rising is on its way, and that some of the things that I think maybe you're aware of is that there's certain things that will be taking place that comes along with the rising. I'm wondering if maybe that's some of the things that you're aware of, or
so all the gray alien contactees that I know, we all know it's hardship first. And we're all embedded with it. We're all programmed with it, and a lot of it's just coming to pass now. It's just coming up, and this isn't a smooth transition. I don't know what other information's out there. I can't speak for it, but I mean, the information. I don't know. Is it really? Like, is this the right place to talk about it? I can talk about it privately with you. You can call me about it, and I can definitely share anything. I don't want to be freaking people out here, and that's just not the purpose of this presentation.
Believe me, Jeff, you're not going to freak me out. Oh, it's going to take a lot. I don't know if there's anything that will freak me out.
But I mean, I think it's also people, because I think that some people some people are a little bit more sensitive than others. And if I may, Jeff, just sort of jump in here, I think that Look, I'm not a contactee such as yourself. I don't have that experience. I can only go with what I've been hearing because I've been trying my best to sort of keep on top of what some of the stuff that people are talking about and what's out there. And of course, there's going to be the storm before the calm. I think that that is definitely something. Now, like you said, people can speak from different perspectives, and people have different points that they're coming from. But a lot of the different messages that I've heard is that there's definitely going to be a certain amount of storm before the calm. Now, does this mean that it's going to be a Hollywood style type of disaster movie where people are going to be slashed and burned and all that? Look, it remains to be seen. I mean, are there going to be certain Earth changes? For sure. I think there's definitely going to be some Earth changes. I think there's definitely going to be some Earth changes that might affect people. There's definitely going to be a lot of flooding and rising of water levels. But I don't think it's going to turn into this Hollywood disaster film. I think that people just need to sort of be aware. And similar to what Jeff is saying, own your power and raise your vibration, and that goes a long way in
Yeah. What actually would be me happy is I'm more than happy to talk about it. I just I don't want to it can change the vibe of our of
I
what
understand.
we're doing right now.
I understand. Yeah.
So I'd actually be happy to to finish off maybe the Q&A.
Okay,
And I
sure.
can hang out.
Sure.
And then those who want to hear
Sure.
what Ross is wanting to know
Absolutely.
about, I'd be happy to. Then
Absolutely.
at that point, it's all by choice when people are here.
Exactly.
And they can hear it if they want to. And I can tell anybody anything because I have it. What I have is government cooperation for it too. So
Okay.
I feel pretty confident that what I know is around the corner. But we're talking about visioning and stuff.
Okay.
And some of these things can affect people as well too
I
in a
understand.
negative way. And I don't want to do that.
I
especially when
understand.
we're in a
No, so
presentation.
let's sort of go back to that. So I'm going to say thank you, Ross, for your call. And stick
you.
around later on, Ross. I'll
Yeah,
try
we
to
can
get you
keep
back
talking about it.
again.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah,
I'd be
we'll
happy
get you
to.
back again, but we'll stick with what we're talking about tonight, and then we'll talk a bit with you later. Okay, Ross?
Sounds good. Awesome.
Okay, great. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
Appreciate.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay, so one sort of getting back to what you were saying about the visioning. Is this something that, for example, I hear a lot of people talking about teaching their children visioning. Is that sort of something that you would consider? Because I think that's kind of interesting, teaching, because instead of, taking over children's brains and saying, okay, you have to sort of do this, you have to do that. Parenting has changed a great deal. And I know you and I have had this conversation before because you and I are both Gen X. And I mean, Generation X growing up was just like a disaster, And I mean, a lot of us were really sort of completely, poo-pooed on as children. And we had a very, very difficult time growing up because a lot of us were coming in as indigo children and all that kind of stuff. And we had to sort of try and deal with some of the stuff that we were coming online with all this stuff, and yet
Right.
with a very, very concrete Victorian type of patriarchal society. But now I see a lot of parents are really changing their tune on how they want to teach their children. Would you say that visioning is a part of is that next? Could you possibly see that maybe being the next step in how we, for example, teach children? Because the children are the
I think it'd be
future.
great. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's part of our power. Yeah. I totally think that if like me, right? Having 20 years of experience of it, really, really helps. And that's because I was applying it at the age of 20 and having results and learning about it from that point onwards and feeling like I was linked to the universe. So a child who has it would it would just be amazing. I can't see anything wrong with that information, and applied and practiced. I think a child would be a powerful individual growing up if they knew that they had the ability to work with the universe. Yeah.
That's great. And I have a comment here from Carol Williams. She says, I like the earlier slide that referred to creating what you desire rather than trying to attract it.
Yeah.
Did you want to comment on that?
It's not the power of, that's great. Because we live in this world of power of attraction, but power of attraction is remember I said that the unity perspective is, it's Advaita Vedanta, non-duality is the height of what all this is. and that's a unity perspective. Now, it is a brain breaker. It is the same concept as I said of limitations is a of resources is a state of mind. It's the idea that there's this unlimited thing going on. So power of attraction is a limitation. It's saying something's out there and I'm going to try to bring it over here. Well, you're in unity, there's nothing to attract. So yeah, it's actually not a power of attraction. It's creation. You're actually materializing and you're bringing it into a fold of a, I guess a computer program, if you will, like as they are saying, a bunch of programmed codes are sitting in the background, and it's working with the new system, this new creation. And when you think of it as a power of attraction, it's a limitation, and it doesn't actually hit at the actual core of the reality of what this is, which is the height of non-duality, which is you're all things. So yeah, if you're all things, then you're creating your desire out as a manifestation of the universe versus attracting something that you think is physically already somewhere else and you're trying to wheel it in as if you're fishing. Yeah.
Okay. So that whole thing of the last, I think, 10, 20 years where people had that, the power of attraction, that book that came out and people were all
The
sort of
Secret,
The
yeah,
Secret
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. And about how that was a power of attraction. So if we had to sort of rewrite that whole thing, it'd be sort of the instead of the secret, the knowing? I don't know.
The open secret. Yeah.
The open
knowing.
secret.
Yeah. The open secret. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something else because I think it's more from that perspective. And I have an interesting comment here from Ingrid Navarre. She says here, Alex Collier today said that we are the disclosure and that we are awakening to our own power, which I think you would definitely, and I think that if I had to say that was the theme of tonight's chat is,
Yeah, that's the premise here. Yeah, it's the elder, the alien that I'm in touch with told me it's the great unveiling. And what I mean by that is it's your unveiling. So you don't know what you are yet. You think that you're Crystal. I walk around saying I'm Jeff. We're not that. We're this thing that's been living out for thousands of years through a birth and death life cycle, and you're not even that. You're in fact the energy that's been offering yourself to the 3D realm, and your higher self energy is what you are. And we don't know how to apply that, how to take that, how to use that, how to work with that. We struggle with it. That's the whole religions thing for thousands of years. So yeah, we are gaining our power back, and it is a great unveiling of ourselves.
Yeah, and it's going to take us in a different direction because we have been wrestling with all this religion, and again, this is not to say that there's anything. We're not shooting down religion, because like we were saying, and so we're trying to say that whatever your practice is or whatever your beliefs are, that is what it is, and we were talking about the sort of bigger picture of how. Unfortunately, Christianity, and some other religions as well, but Christianity for its own part has, really held us back in many different ways. But the reason why it's held us back, and if you look to the Bible, especially with the Tower of Babel, it says, look at them, they become smarter, and if we don't knock them down, they'll become like us. So there's some sort of level of wanting to keep the humanity down, and
well, yeah. Again,
yes and no. Again, it's all about interpretation. But I'm just saying, sometimes on this show we talk about the archons, a group of beings that have come and have tried to keep, humanity down. So there are certain things that we've been toyed with, and I know everybody can have their own, I guess their own opinion on that. I'm not here to justify one or the other, but as human beings, we've definitely been kept down. And I think that a big part of what's happening now is the ability is us to say, well, wait a minute, we actually are powerful beings, and to move forward with that. But I think that what I really like about what you were saying before, and that's actually a question I wanted to ask. At one point in your discussion, you were talking about how the aliens see time differently. And I know that I've discussed on this show the idea of, for example, when ships are flying, like spaceships are flying, they have a tendency to sort of go out of time and sort of pop back in again. Right. How? And I know this is a little off the cuff, but how are aliens or the Greys that you work with? How are they seeing time? Like, what is their concept of time? Are they in and out of it? You know?
So the alien that I interact with repeatedly tells me she's from the future.
Okay.
So, and I think that there's different things you can do when you're from one time zone and you decide to come into a different time zone. And I think that that ability alters, I think just making that jump from field to field all of a sudden opens up a whole bunch of wacky abilities.
Okay.
And time playing or time morphing is one of them. And yeah, there appears to be some state outside of time that they can access that I think has something to do with the mantis. So there's some kind of grander outside time perspective. But the elder herself has repeatedly told me, and Craft's flying by my house and we're telepathically communicating, and she's communicating, I'm from the future. And she did this like just a couple weeks ago again, like I'm from the future. And that answers how they interacted with me, because I have a timeline and the timeline is actually of my future. So for them, that was already an event that occurred, and then they're coming back and they're interjecting and they're working with an event that had already occurred. So that's a very different perspective than the one with which I take. And also it answers some weird things like, you know, why UFOs weren't part of the 1400s, you know, or the 1200s or the 1000 BC. How come there's not whole pictures, you know, of just tons and tons of flying crafts?
Well,
right?
no, sorry, because like we have a lot of ancient wall paintings of aliens, no?
Well, we don't know what some of those things are. And yeah, we do actually, yeah, and I agree with you that some of those things could definitely be them.
Okay.
But if they were flying around with the consistency that they have today.
Yeah, no, not the consistency today. No.
Yeah,
sorry, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
talking about their visibility is something is going on right now presently. And the gap of visibility can start making sense because they're actually interjecting at spots that they choose to. Okay. And then they just leave us alone for huge gaps. Okay. And of course, yes, I definitely agree that they popped in and out of time and they're interjecting with humanity.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to sort of like, you know, jump in there and sort of like negate what you were saying.
Okay.
Just more
I understand.
of this,
and someone else would have probably thought the same thing I was thinking too, or you were thinking too. So, but that I think the gaps actually start making sense when they look at it from an outside perspective of time and they're interjecting at certain spots. And so, I mean, that's basically the only knowledge I have about how the other information I have is that, that I think that, so the human brain is fragmenting our reality. And this I do know because I've seen the afterlife. and the human brain is fragmenting our experience of space and time. And time, I think, is actually a lot. I think when you are the higher self is removed from your body, your time is actually a different speed. And it actually might be going at a different rate. And then when you're manifested in the body, you're looking at a metered second, dot, 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 dot. But I think your own higher self is actually bigger, which is why you can have premonitions about what's happening that day, or you can feel something that's coming around the corner. It's because your higher self is actually experiencing it in a grander state. And I think the aliens are living in that space as well too. And then they have to work with that, the human who's looking at everything very metered and fragmented out. And then they're aliens. That's why I think they use the bodies with us so much, is because the bodies help them get on our stream of time, maybe something like that.
Okay.
So I think that they have a grander experience of time than we do. And though we can have that same grand experience of time, our human tendency, the brain and everything, is fragmenting it all out. So we experience it in the way that we do. But yeah, those are the things I'm aware of about how they see time. So, but I'm certain this is just going to be a baffling, large scale. Once there's disclosure that time is something that is much more hugely different than we thought it was. And yeah, I think time, the lack of understanding of time is actually one of the big reasons we don't have disclosure, is how time actually works in the universe is much different than we think it is.
Okay, that's interesting. That's very great. Well, I want to say thank you again, Jeff, for this amazing presentation, and I apologize profusely for all the technical
No worries, yeah.
difficulties that we had.
No worries. No
I'm
worries.
so
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
about that, but I just
yeah,
wanted to
no
say
worries.
thank you, everybody, and to say thank you again, Jeff, for taking the time out of your schedule to come and to discuss this
Yeah,
with us. It's
my
been
pleasure.
absolutely, and I find that when I consider all the information that's out there
Yeah,
about creating your reality, I find that your approach was one of the most informative and
mm,
one of the most it sort of just somehow made sense to me somehow, because like, you always hear about, okay, but you do this, you do that, no, but you actually made a lot of sense, and you took me and I can see by the comments you took also our members in a very different perspective, and it actually makes sense. I think what you're saying tonight made a lot more sense than anything else I've heard or read. So I wanted to
brilliant.
say
Thank you.
thank
Yeah,
you, because that it really is true. And so now I can sort of like, yes, I can have that glass of wine, but I can
you
but
have to fulfill the vision.
I
I
know,
think that's
fulfill the
required.
vision, exactly. But it's just that the way you put it, it just sort of like, it gives me a more step by step approach, but it just makes sense of what's happening with what I'm actually doing. And
Brilliant.
the way you explained it was more sort of like, okay, I get it now. I understand. Okay, this is what's happening, and this is what I have to do. So, very, very, very good. And if people are interested in getting a copy of your workbook, is that also available on? Because if you
On
want,
the
you can send me
website.
that information, and I can put it down on the comments below. Once we're
Sure.
finished, I can do that. So if you want to just send me that information, and if people you want to get a copy of the workbook, and you want to really take what Jeff has been saying tonight to the next level, I highly, highly recommend that you get the workbook. I know I am, because everything tonight was just absolutely mind blowing, and was such a different and new perspective. So I'm definitely going to be getting that workbook. So if you can just send me that information, Jeff, I will put that
Sure.
in the comments below. And as
Okay,
well,
no problem.
oh yeah, and everybody, as always, if you're a member of the Star Season Lightworkers Collective on Meetup, please join us here on YouTube as well. Please subscribe and like our videos tonight. It really helps us a lot, and it helps us to bring more content, and helps us to bring you the amazing guests like Jeff back to our channel. So really, really. Looking forward to seeing you guys registered. And so I will leave it at that. I know that we're going to stay maybe for another 5 or 10 minutes more. We were going to discuss the other
Sure.
topics.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
fine
want
with
to
that.
just
Yeah.
say thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next week at our next presentation. So thank you again, everyone, and have a good
Great.
night. And I'm so sorry for all the tech, but I'm glad that you stayed behind and stayed with us.
Yeah,
So
great. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you
yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
Yeah,
Great.
awesome.
Yeah, I have actually an interesting comment here from Jet Setter. We'll get back online with Ross, but I have an interesting comment here from Jeff. He says here, Jeff, do you contact the aliens you communicate with whenever you choose, or do they tap in and ring your doorbell? Also, do you have any special current projects currently going on? That's interesting.
Yeah, I have access to her. And she's available to me. So, it's not consistent. I don't, and her response isn't always consistent, but I can definitely tap into them, and she's available immediately. So I'm certain this is tech, because I don't know where she is sometimes, and I'm able to talk to her, and she's like right here immediately. Yeah. Um, that was the first question. The second one was projects. I do have more presentations coming up. I don't know if I have a YouTube channel, and I really love doing presentations, putting out new information. And I just put out a video today of a sighting that I had, and so I'll be doing. I have a past life that I had that was written in history that I have a lot of memories of, and it has some historical information that anyway that will be coming out soon. And so those are the type of projects I'm working on. I also have more information about what the rising and what the aliens did with me, and I'm be putting out information about that. Some of my perspectives about what the aliens even are has changed over time, and I'll be putting out that information too. It's all on my YouTube channel. If you subscribe to my channel, you should be able to see some of the projects I'm working on and some of the things I'm doing.
That's great.
Other than that, I keep talking and hanging out with people like Crystal, keep inviting me back, and some other interviews, all stuff I try to put on my YouTube channel, so you can go to my channel there and see what's going on. So.
Absolutely. So we definitely want to have people, again, we're also going to put that link down below in the comments for those who want to check out Jeff's page. He has a lot of good content there, and he's done a lot of presentations with other people as well. So definitely check that out. And so just started getting back here. Ross, are you there? Ross?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, did we want to go down that rabbit hole? How are we feeling, guys?
Yeah, I can say anything. I prefer not to make the conversation too long.
No,
but
another 5-10 minutes, and then
yeah,
we can.
5 minutes. And so let's just make it clear: everybody who's hanging out right now is okay with future knowledge or future what I was told by the future. That's all. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about this.
Yeah.
I don't want to freak people out who didn't want to hear this information. Yada yada yada.
Absolutely.
We're good.
We're good.
So the aliens told me. So they showed me. And this is. I didn't know this information was out there. It was actually out there on John Mack's books as well too. And John Mack's, so he wrote them in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. So, and I know there's opposing information, but I have government cooperation for mine too. So I'm pretty certain. So the aliens are concerned for the planet, and I'm pretty certain the planet is a birth and death life cycle stage. So it's not a garden per se, but it's actually a managed system that includes the birth and death life cycle. The benevolent woo is real. God is real. All the divine, all the positive, all that's real. It's actually, that's the whole part of this all, is that it is real, and there's kind of a sciencey perspective behind it too, where they are, they do maybe want genetics to be a certain way, and they made the human body a certain way, and the mantis was a part of this, the mantis species. And so the planet itself is a treasured garden, if you will. And I think that's the whole point with them approaching the aliens approaching, the government in the 50s. Apparently they was actually shared to me, some of this information. We told them the plan a long time ago. And the plan appears to have been to alter the genetics of the species of humans. And I think this is what we're at, the era now where there's so many experiencers and so many who feel connected to the phenomenon. I'm like, this is obviously evidently real. This is totally real, because so many people feel connected to the phenomenon, and then they end up interacting with it. And that's just all evidence for me that this was all planned, this whole time that we're in right now. And that it also gives validity for the other half of what I know. So yeah, there's going to be some kind of planet event. And what I was shown was that they need to adjust. Okay, actually what it is, and it's crazy. It's just totally insane. And I actually understand why there's no disclosure. The gray aliens are from an alternate Earth that's going to basically be merged with our Earth. And the mantis is the one who's in charge of all this. They're called the controller species, so they can control this stuff. And it does. So that's a whole bunch of wackiness. But what it is that field, the dimensional field that they're from, is going to merge with ours. But I think it causes like a planet shakeup on a massive global scale. And so something along the lines of the electromagnetic field shifting, and upon that, some type of planetary earthquake that causes the oceans to buckle and then cause massive tidal waves. And so what I saw was massive waves wiping things out. Not just that, going in thousands of kilometers inland. So it's huge destruction is what it is. And Linda Moulton Howe actually, so I saw her on her YouTube channel, and then emailed her. I had this information, and I was talking with her anyway from Ian Halling, who I was working with. And so she already had previous information that a scientist from S4 was actually tasked by the government how to save humanity from giant waves. And it appears I'm not the only contactee who's been told massive waves, massive earthquake destruction that causes huge global waves that basically wipe cities out and wipe territories out. And the aliens told me we are destroying things and then we're remaking things. And we're making it better for people like you, for people who are kind, spiritual, and peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're determined to make the place better for people who are kind, spiritual, and peaceful. And it's kind of really interesting because if you think about it, look out the window,
Mm-hmm.
might be the actual problem. There's not a lot of kind, spiritual, and peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And though yes, there's groups of us, right? There's us, but we're an echo chamber, right?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't huge billions of people on the planet who are, living out a certain way. And I think that it's also combined with the sensitivity of the earth as a bioorganism that is threatened by, some of the damage that's going on. And that doesn't just mean one thing. I think it means all the various damage that's occurring right now. And it might be all combined with maybe they knew something like this would happen. I'm not really clear, but they knew that they'd have to intervene at some point, and that's what's happening right now. And so that there was some type of massive earth cataclysm is the premise of it. And that cataclysm was some type of shifting of the poles that brought their frequency on their planet over to our planet. So their frequency is available here. Now, the other twist of this is that it's actually not as utopian as we think it is. Mm-hmm. So their tech is utopian. The world that I believe when they interact with us, with the hybrids, it will be utopia. Mm-hmm. But the environment will be possibly an electromagnetic thing that does something weird to the psyche, the consciousness of humans. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Meaning those who don't know their source might go haywire. And imagine a paranormal frequency that just got amplified. And so the thinner dimensions are thicker now, and the thicker dimensions are thinner now. Something like that. And then there might be cryptoids that were naturally always here that hated humans. So there might be weird problems all of a sudden that we didn't expect, like ghosts that can take over a territory, ghosts that say, get the hell out of here, humans, because you kicked us out, now we're kicking you out, that kind of stuff. And though people who actually were always spiritual, who could connect with source, might be the most powerful. So a flip is going to occur where surprisingly highly spiritual people could somehow, be leaders of the society. And people who were, live in their world, doing their own thing, and didn't give spirit a thought, might struggle in this new world. Mm-hmm. Never mind the fact that there's a planet event. Never mind that there's now the presence of the aliens. And when I say the presence, I'm pretty certain it's the hybrids who are merging societies. And so, yeah, it's a planet event. And between now and then, I think what they do is tied to how humans respond. Mm-hmm. And I think that humans are supposed to be giving out this information more and making this merging happening sooner or smoother. And it's almost predictable. Humans didn't do that. Mm-hmm. And the reason we didn't do that is because, technically it's batshit crazy, this stuff is. Mm-hmm. Right? Other dimensions.
Well, they don't want to cause a panic too, right? Don't forget that they don't want to cause like a panic.
Yeah, okay, never mind how there's layers of things right here. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Never mind the public. Mm-hmm. I'm not convinced that anybody holding this information sat with it either. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody who's some government said, "Oh, of course, aliens from other dimensions. Let's manipulate this and figure out how to control this." I don't think that's what they did, because when you look at what this is too much for any human. A human can't understand this. And we have some whistleblowers. The longer I'm in this field, and I'm able to talk with some people who are in the know, and I get my little ins and stuff, I learned what I always knew, that apparently they did try to get scientists in, decades into this, and the scientists are like, no, that's not reality. Mm-hmm. How dare you tell me that that's reality? And the scientists can't work on it with them, because the scientists are saying, how dare you say that astral planes are real? And it's like, they're pissing and they can't even handle the information. Humans can't handle the information, is what it is.
You can't handle the truth. That's kind of
you can't
handle the truth. Exactly.
There actually might be a premise to this, where dimensions and aliens and afterlife and all that stuff is real. God is real. Birth and death life cycle is real, but aliens are a part of it. All real is so screwed up for the human brain that I think that even at points when they had the information and they tried to involve departments, you'd get just pushback, right? And I think that, and so what gets created is this vacuum where, yeah, maybe there's some kind of black ops tech thing going on where they were manipulating crafts for technology. I don't doubt that stuff, because that vacuum is there because humans didn't know how to handle the information.
Ross?
And then the aliens actually want the information out to make that process smoother, which is what I think over the decades, what E.T. was from Spielberg and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and all what we assume now as contactees and experiencers, that all this was warm up, but it got stunted, that they actually were trying to change humanity to get accepted into this stuff. But, you know, over time, certain people say, no, let's not do that. And, you know, humans are humans. And so we're in this shady scenario where they are coming and we might not be prepared.
No.
And there might be a global panic thing that could occur.
I don't think we'll ever be prepared, though, to be honest. I don't think, regardless of what you do.
It's true, too. I
agree.
It's challenging.
To be honest.
I think this whole thing is nuts.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Ross, did you have a comment that you wanted to...
So energetic transformation is going to happen. It will. It's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. You cannot stop it. I cannot stop it. We cannot stop it. And tough luck. You know, I'm sorry to say, for those who do not know themselves, will be seriously challenged. And it's just tough shit. I'm sorry. I mean, you can disagree with me and you can have a compassion for that, but hey, you know.
No, I agree. I totally agree. That's it. And we have to, we'll be in it. Those who did the effort, those who did the thing with which looked like nasal gazing, that's right.
Gazing,
and those who spent 20 years in a cave, right, all of a sudden will have an ability to work with this. And that's the key. And those who didn't, who thought it was all nuts and bolts, or even those who laughed it off, or, you know, it's going to be surprising. And I'm certain it's a reversal of the people who actually have spirituality will have powers in this new dimension, in this new reality, and they'll be able to utilize it in a way that other people won't. And I totally agree. It's a dimensional spiritual change that the humans will go through, and that's what all of this is about. And that's what the end result is. How we get there is possibly not is you know, buckle up is basically what it is.
Yeah, but I've heard recently a lot of people have been talking about this. They're talking about, there's going to be a big flash, and then 3 days of darkness, and then there's going to be a shift, and blah blah. Have you heard anything about that? Like this 3 days of darkness, and then there's going to be like a big, large solar flare or pulse that's going to sort of burn things up, and then I don't know. There's so many different takes on that. But
all I know is that from my information, that includes other contactees, that includes this government information, their planet is coming here. And it's on a different astral plane. And according to the government, all they knew was that a burp in the galaxy. And between us contactees, well, we knew that astral planes there's fields of planes stacked on top of one another. That's the nature of the universe. Fields of dimensions stacked on top of one another. So other dimensions exist right here, and we don't interact with them. We don't know that, and they're astral planes. And so the gray aliens are from an alternate Earth, is what it is, an alternate version of Earth. Or like, it's not Earth for them, it's another whole other planet, but it's with us. It's shared. It's like an entanglement, if you will. And the leader, the mantis species, is the one who's responsible for it, because they're like kind of gurus of the galaxy. They're like managers at this stuff. And so they're changing that field, and that's what this whole thing is. That's a merging of that society with our society, and it's crashing societies, crashing planets, as if you will, dimensional fields that are colliding. And so the idea that was some kind of like something from the galaxy is like doing it. Now, I don't know anything about the solar flare stuff. I know there's a couple contactees out there who talk pretty heavily about solar flares. I can't speak about it. I don't know anything about the solar flares. And I really don't know anything about what this looks like either. I don't know the whens or it'll be like this. It'll be 7 days of that. And I don't know anything about that stuff. All I know is that the damage will be so intense that I know from my side, it's a Noah's Ark scenario.
Oh, really?
They're taking people.
Well, that's one thing I have heard. That's one thing that I've heard, is that they're saying that they're going to try.
My whole thing is Noah's Ark, that they're taking people out. And that we will all be in outer space while all the stuff is happening.
Exactly. That's what I've heard. That's a part
My
of
whole
it.
thing is Noah's Ark. The entire and I've been repeating
Noah's Ark or Noah's ship, spaceship, as it were.
Sure, yeah, well, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know?
Noah's great. Noah's Mantis.
Noah's
spaceship,
Mantis
actually.
ship, but you
Yeah,
know,
and
but,
like all of us are in the spaceships, and
Yeah.
we're watching it all down below.
Yeah, I
and
remember-
and then it's all done, and then they put us back.
put us back,
is what it is.
exactly. No,
Yeah,
that's what I've
yeah.
heard as well. And I know that I'd mentioned this once when you and I were talking. Is that my mother, before she passed away, my mother used to be quite psychic, and she used to have a lot of prophetic dreams. And she's had a dream where she saw, shit hit the fan, and everybody was running around screaming and yelling, and nobody knew what was going on, and that ships were landing, and that humanoid beings were coming out and telling people, come into the ships, because you have to come into the ships, because that's how we're going to help you to get out of this. And it's not the first time I've heard this. So my mother had that dream, but I've also been hearing from other people talking about how they're going to protect as many people as they can from the cray that's going on, and put them back. But it's also for us to sort of build up on that. But would you say there are any safe havens on the planet, just in case? I don't know.
So what I saw was now I don't like playing this game. I don't know. Like they showed it to me, and then sometimes what they're doing is symbolic, and sometimes it's actually 100% accurate. What I saw was the pole. The poles, and it buckles, and it like tilts basically. And when it tilts, it causes something in the North Sea. And so the North Sea is the thing that actually crashes basically destroys Russia. And then that would obviously create a huge tidal wave throughout the Pacific. And I think it's stuff like that, where it's this after effect stuff. And if you're what they showed me was a massive tidal wave crashing through Russia, going up to the Himalayas. And so that's thousands of kilometers inland. So that's a huge amount of water. That's obviously a massive tsunami, a massive amount of earthquake damage. And tied to it, like everything, all the synchronicities throughout contact events just kind of added more picture to this, that it was actually coming from the North Seas. And in that contact event, it was a test. I didn't know it was a test. I was on craft, and I was actually helping save people. And we were doing it in Northern Europe. So it all kind of matched a picture that this was happening in the Northern Sea would buckle, and we were in Northern Europe, and they were picking up people. We were scanning consciousness of people and who to pick up and who couldn't.
So the pedophiles don't have a chance, basically, is what you're saying. Like.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Better not.
No.
But it was analyzing consciousness, and it was a really wild thing. And I thought it was happening in the moment, and I was anxious about it. And then they were testing us, is what it was. Can we handle it?
Okay.
And so, but the whole premise of the story kind of kept up through a contact event. That was my 18th. Well, it would be like 24th that I would see the planet, and they would go back into the same explanation. Something like a tilt would happen, and it was happening in the northern sea. So something about this information ended up matching some science about the poles I didn't know about. So
and so you said there's waves going into the Pacific Rim, or
the Pacific. Well, it would be the North Sea. Let's look at where the pole is right now. And you just project it moving even further down, further into Russia, because it's right now the pole is moving. And it's moving into Russia. So you just imagine that's. Like, I didn't know this information. I was just getting the memories out, and I'm like looking at all this, and then learn it all matches science. So it's actually that pole that's right now the pole is moving towards Russia. Just imagine it moving maybe 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers as a quick adjustment, and it must crack something in the ocean, and then all that just buckles out, and then that would just cause an aftershock that goes through the Pacific, but it would definitely, it'd be massive destruction to the Russia and the whole area of the North and everything to do with the North Sea. So, it's just massive destruction is what it is. I
had a question here from someone. Sorry, go ahead, Ross.
Yeah. So Jeff, all right. So let's say let's imagine a celestial body dematerialize itself from another dimension here in the solar system.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need nothing else. by just that, it's going to cause such a gravitational mess up with not just with Earth, but with our sun. So it's a automatic. Okay, you don't have to go any further than that because the sun it's gonna freak out. It's just by that, and then a gravitational pull and tug on all the planets, including Earth. It's gonna be. I mean, you won't be able to hide. Period.
Yeah, you won't be able to hide.
That's it.
Yeah. Imagine a scenario where the government calls it a burp from the galaxy, a burp from the center of the galaxy. And it's actually a dimensional field that the mantis is able to shift or change or collide or something. Yeah. And then maybe and that's what had me thinking that all these other contactees are talking solar flares. And I don't know anything about solar flares. I was never told that, but that could make sense if there was a galactic something that was occurring that shifts everything. Yeah, and the planet is a part of that, and the sun might be just part of that too. Yeah, it could be.
Well, I mean, the science kind of makes sense, though.
Period.
But the science makes sense in a way that if the because what happens, for example, if you have a big fat EMP coming off the sun, it's a lot of electromagnetic energy that's coming towards a planet. I could see that really messing up the poles, which is also electromagnetic, and then changing them altogether, and then causing all that destruction. So it's all about electromagnetic. So the science behind it definitely, works out. But on another note, I have another question here. Somebody's saying, when do we expect this thing to happen? When we have to buckle up? And from what I'm hearing that something's happening this year. Nobody seems to have, but it seems between 2025, maybe 2026. But it seems to be that there's a big, fat ass shift coming on the way down the pike.
So yeah, I was never given any dates.
No, okay.
And I've always believed in these whistleblowers. And the reason is because they're saying everything that matches for me. And I always knew that the planet was at stake here. That this was in some ways we actually look like we're a dying civilization. So we're dying off, even though we don't feel like it because everything looks like it's going grand relatively. But that actually what's coming around the corner is a struggle, and that they're bringing in another civilization that could benefit from both. So it's a merging. Hey, these both two could work together, and so it's a merging of civilizations that can benefit both parties. And even though we might be unconscious about that or lack the understanding of it, the entities on the galactic level are like, no, this will benefit all parties. And the planet being the big part of this, I always lend towards what John Ramirez said, which was 2027. That in fact, and it makes sense that they would do this, that it was actually a 10-year program of soft disclosure from 2017, which was when the first Pentagon videos came out and the New York Times article finally acknowledged UFOs, all the way to 2027. And then everything they're doing now between, Berber, this Jake Barber guy being the last one, it's all making sense. They're trying to actually get some of the reality of what this is out, which is it was consciousness driven, and they're doing it with slow drip because I see people fighting already with the Jake Barber thing. They're freaking out.
But
they're pissed off that it actually has a woo to it. They hate it. They expect this to be evil aliens, and it's turning out not to be evil aliens. How dare they tell us it's not evil aliens, right?
No, that's BS. That's BS Hollywood. But there's actually, speaking of Hollywood, there's actually a show that I'm watching these days, and it's on Prime, and it's called Paradise. And it's a TV show. People should check this out if you guys are people still around. But it's a TV show where we think that it's about, just a usual government, a U.S. government type of, a political show. But it turns out that this is, at one point they say there's going to be a human extinction level event that's going to take place on the planet. And we think, okay, and so we're sort of sitting in the first or second episode, and by the second episode, I don't want to give too much away. Spoiler alert! But the character looks up, and the camera goes all the way up, and then we find out that the character is living in an underground city, and that the sun that he's seeing is a fake sun, as being everything's being manufactured. It is a fake American town that was created underneath a mountain, like kind of like Cheyenne Mountain, that kind of
like
thing.
Truman Show almost.
It come almost like a Truman Show, but
Yeah,
a Truman Show because of an extinction level event, and so they are having to exist underground. And it's interesting because this whole idea of Earth having gone through destruction before is nothing new, and we always hear about we always hear these myths about people living in underground cities, and I'm wondering if that's sort of what that is. If wondering the whole idea of, you know, Hyperborea being one of those cultures that went underground because they were destroyed at some point, you know, that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting that this TV show called Paradise, which is, I think it's on Disney Plus. Sorry, it's on Disney Plus, and it's basically taking that whole concept. I don't know. Maybe that's a soft disclosure. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't doubt these things anymore. That even some concepts in Marvel. Someone actually asked a Reddit post about it, and they were like, "What movies do you think were soft disclosure?" And I'm like, "Oh well, some of the Marvel concepts were bang on, like Kang.
Yeah,
like Kang is 100% the Mantis, like the outside time, working with timelines.
Exactly.
I'm pretty certain that's what that is. And same with the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, who creates genetic engineering and has experimentation with animals and with entities and creates things. And yeah, I think these are all kind of things that put these ideas into our head.
That was so sad. Ugh, I hate the idea of experimentation on animals. I just don't like that kind of stuff. Anyways.
So, but the 2020, that's my whole thing, is that I think that's what this is. The 2027 is at least getting that information out. I don't know what's going to happen when, but I do know that the aliens have always wanted this to be a smooth process. I think this is what the whole Eisenhower thing was this is the plan, and here's how you get to the end, and let's do this together. And they're saying, okay. And then they're kind of saying behind their backs, not okay anymore over the decades. And there turns out to be, I have an essay on this that it looks like there's evidence actually that there were kind of two parties within the government. One that wanted to do this, wanted to give information out. That's part of what the ET was, and the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And also there was in the 70s, two directors were going to, on behalf of the Pentagon, tell the world that aliens were
I heard
real.
about that, and then they decided to shut that down, eh?
Yeah, the Pentagon was the one who shut it down.
Yeah.
So they were going to do this, meaning there was an inside movement to get this information out.
Yeah.
So that was a way to help make this merging make sense and make it easy. And I think a planetary event was a part of it. And I think some, dumbasses inside the government are like, oh, well, if there's a planetary event, maybe a whole bunch of people we don't need can get wiped out, and that can help us. And I think something crazy maniacal was a part of that, and and then they stopped it. And what there's the guy who Kepler Space Telescope, the CEO of the guy who manages the software for it, made a Morningstar Pass, the book called Morningstar Pass, and he was an author working on space programs. And he said, yeah, there was an agreement with gray aliens that had fallen apart. Yeah. And so that's what I see is a whole, we're going to work together. And then there's a fight in the government saying, no, we're not going to work with these guys. And that happened in the sometimes 80s or 90s or something. Yeah. And that creates the dilemma we're in now. And it's a dilemma. Yeah. So there is a planet event and they have to catch up. Exactly. And if you don't, like when we come out, like we're not. That's it. We're not on the government side. That's it.
Exactly. We're on our own time clock, and I mean, there's two things. One, there was there's a long lost video on YouTube, and it was a Disney type of production where they were going to do this sort of like thing about UFOs, and it's crazy. You can look it up on YouTube, and it's this whole thing.
I believe it.
Yeah, and then Disney was supposed to put this, like, they put a show together, and they had people talking, and it was supposed to be this whole forum, and it's interesting the way they do it. It's definitely from the 80s. And some people were saying that this whole thing was produced in order to have the so-called soft disclosure, and it didn't really sort of go any further. But then to top it off, a lot of people were saying, look, the aliens have said, look, we've given you enough time. And, you're screwing that up. Screw you. We're going to come. We're on a clock. and
they're on
either
their own
you
clock. Yeah,
we're on the
that's right,
clock, and if you're not going to be there, we're coming down. Oh, but you can't come down because people are not ready. Screw that. We
Yeah.
gave you time. You didn't do it, and now
Yeah.
we're coming down. I don't care what you want. Later for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really think it's much more extreme. I think it's
Yeah.
a dimensional field that humans can't even handle unless you develop yourself in a spiritual way, in a consciousness way, and that if you don't, there can be like consequences that go haywire, like your own inability to be in. What I was shown is that humans will have to be protected. They'll have to be protected from this field, from this environment, if they can't handle it.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that where it's much more shocking. And hey,
That's my cat. Sorry.
that's sweet. I love it. Yeah. So, and then the people who have this information will just be scolded for decades later. For not telling the rest of the population or not helping us with this at all, and taking forever as long as they did to make this public. So yeah, and I think actually one of the things I knew too part of the information I was given is there'll be face palming. They'll be like, how did we do this? How did we get to this state? And anyway, I have some of that information, but the whole bottom line is we are in a scenario that we weren't supposed to be in, or at least they were saying, coming down and saying, here, go about it this way. This will make it all easy for everybody. And I think some of their dimensionality actually is so off-putting that the humans who they were probably talking to were like, these guys are crazy. Why were you listening to them? And so they're also having trouble trusting them. I think there was a bit of that too. Yeah. That they're just not advanced enough. Government people are A-type personalities. They're not interested in spirituality. No. So they're hearing this stuff and they're probably not believing half of it. And so they're thinking there's deception along the way, and they don't trust them and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's too bad for them. But I think that overall, I think the lesson here, and I'm going to sort of close it off because we're getting a bit late, but I think the big lesson here is that, like getting back to what you were talking about in terms of like creating your own environment and all that, is that if you are in a situation where you are spiritual, and what, if you envision a positive outlook and you're spiritual and you look within, then you can create this positive.
You can.
You can.
And there could be something crazy going on, but you can actually vision your outcome.
Exactly.
Through it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they actually, in the Mystic book that they gave me, they 100% emphasize you're going to have this power. There might be a time where you actually need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is what this is about. There might be earth changes, and you vision your family, you vision your friends, you vision people's outcomes and safety and happiness and joy and love, and you vision it. Yeah, you vision the outcomes you want.
Yeah, exactly. So we can definitely create our reality with all that. So everybody's seeing the cat. She's here. So she wants to be part of the show. This is Millie. But so I want to just say thank you again, awesome. Jeff. We really went around the sun and back on this one, and I think that and Millie too, and so I think that we have a lot to look forward to. I personally don't see the negativity. I know that there's certainly be certain earth changes. I know that that's coming. That goes back to the dawn of time, that we're going to have earth changes, but I think that if people keep it together, I think if people look in, if people have like a spiritual practice and are calm and relaxed inside, I think that from what I've been hearing is that, yes, there are going to be some changes, but that we're going to be fine. We're just going to have to just work it through, Right. And I think that we're going to be okay. So I don't see a problem. There's nothing to be worried about. So for all of you who are still here with us and who are still, listening to us, there's nothing to be worried about. It's just a matter of being positive and working in your creation and knowing that we're going to be fine. So I'll leave it at that. All right. Well, thank you again to everybody. Kitty.
Love your cat.
Yeah.
So cute.
So thank you again to everybody for being with us this evening. Thank you again, Jeff, for a beautiful, mind-bending presentation, and with technical issues and all. But we all had such a good time, and we learned so much. I know I learned a lot, and there you go. So, in addition to technical issues, we had kitty issues as well. So, why not just throw everything in? So, thank you again, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And I'll be putting more information down below for Jeff Selver. Okay? Awesome. Thank you. Take care,
Thanks,
Jeff.
everybody. Thanks for having
Love
me,
and
Crystal.
light. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks.
Take care.
Awesome. Take care.